Oh, you're still okay if I record this?
I'm cool with it. Yeah, go ahead.
Cool.
Um, just to introduce myself, I am Boymeetsmini. You all know me probably from Epic Prawn's chat. I hang out in a lot of a lot of chats, Epic Prawn, Jets chat. A lot of the big lefty streamers, but also I hang out in other communities too, like sim racing communities and places like that. So it is really fun. To do that. But yeah, that's mainly what I do. I do a lot of sim racing and stuff like that. And sorry, I'm trying to. I don't know what's going on with this resizing. It's going to be a nightmare.
No, I was.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get you into the stream here.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and it is starting to freak out a little bit,
Oh no.
unfortunately.
Oh, what happened?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm trying to hang on. Okay, that's the Discord window. Okay, let me see if I can crop it in place. But yeah, anyways, I'll keep talking while I do that.
Oh,
But
I
yeah,
was
I
I was
am.
gonna say real quick. I was gonna for my chat too, just being like, hey everyone, welcome to the Jet Stream. Today we have Boy Meets
Yes.
Mini, our favorite critical racing theorist. But also, you talk about critical race theory?
I have talked about it in the past. Yes,
Okay.
I've talked about that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I talk about both theories. But I'll enlighten you all on what critical racing theory is, because I don't know, it's something I came up with when I started streaming.
Yeah, for sure. I'll probably ask about it later
So
for sure, or we'll bring it up for sure. But
yeah.
he's a fellow leftist streamer, super chill streams. I love watching his stuff, even on racing. I'm not a huge car guy. I'm not gonna lie to you. That being said, I'm still gonna talk about cars. Don't you worry, Mini Coopers. Um, and so he loves racing, as he clearly said. Knows a lot about international politics, just from the few times that I've seen him talk about it. Super interesting, as far as I can tell. Is there anything else that you can expand on as well regarding your stream or things that you do?
Uh, Well, yeah, pretty much like the things and hey, Epic Prawns here in chat, and Matt's here too. Welcome in, guys. And yes, feel free to VIPs can shout themselves out in my chat. But anyways, yeah. But yeah, that's basically what I do. Is I try to make I'm sort of between multiple communities, right? And it's kind of weird. It is kind of a weird feeling at times, being between communities like this. And so how do I say it? I guess like. Um, so I'm in so many different kinds of communities, like sim racing, like and what have you. And I think one of my goals is just, that's one of the things I really enjoy is building that community. So I've almost got you in frame here. Cool. Okay, perfect. Cool. Uh, you're looking good. All right.
Thanks. Just had to
We
put my
got
hair
Jet in
back.
frame
Yeah.
now. There we are. There you are, Jet. So yeah. Hey, so everybody, this is Jet. I got you on stream, but yeah, that's the thing I really like, and where I really started on Twitch was not so much in the sort of lefty spaces, but more so in the I more so started in the I would say I started more in the sort of Fallout space. Actually, that's kind of where I started because I'm a huge Fallout RPG nerd. If you've ever played the Fallout series, you know what it's about, right? It's sort of post-apocalypse stuff like that, and it's got a huge community. The modding community is huge, and all that. So I sort of got my start into streaming that way. And then I started getting political around 2016. And then in 2016, that's when I voted for Bernie Sanders. I started moving left from when I was like center and a center right. I started moving to the left, and so yeah. I don't know. Are you frozen? Sorry, one second.
Shouldn't be.
Uh,
Still hear me okay?
yeah. I just think my thing, my display capture. I think. Hang on one second.
Am I at a good freeze frame? Did you get my right side? Um, oh, real quick. Baltsack, thank you for the tier 1 sub to Silverfang12. Much appreciated. It's still
Yeah,
frozen?
well, no, my sort of whole wait a minute. I think I got to keep the oh, okay, there you are. Sorry, never mind. I got it. So I got to keep the Discord window up. I can't minimize it. Okay, there we
Oh,
go.
gotcha.
Fixed. But yeah, I basically started moving left at that time, and then I started to find sort of online politics. So I started to get into like at first Kyle Kalinske, but then I sort of fell out with him and with
Oh, you
all of his
too.
stuff. Yeah, I started moving left because of Kyle, David Pakman, and those kind of people. And then later I found the Rational National, which I really still like. I like David Dole and sort of his approach to Canadian and U.S. politics. And then yeah, that's basically where I started discovering the online left, and so here we are.
Nice.
I at first now I will confess to something, and this is where the lore comes in. I will confess that at one point, and this is early 2020, I actually found Destiny. And so I joined Destiny's community, and that's when he was a lot more progressive and stuff. And now, of course, the middle of 2020 when he started having really bad takes on BLM and stuff, I just left. I left that community and found Vosh. I actually found Vosh through a David Pakman interview of him, by the way.
Oh, really?
So I went to the Vosh side, and I've been there for ever since, and ever since mid late 2020, and there's a lot of cool people in that community. It's where I started my streams from, and so yeah.
So,
And even now, like today, sorry, one more thing, but
oh, you're good.
today, like I've sort of evolved politically. I don't agree with Vosh on some things. Like even though I'm a tier 2 subscriber to him, I have quite a few fundamental disagreements with him, and it's just I'm a little more like he's more. Just to me, it's like I think he's sort of to me he's kind of a social democrat functionally in a lot of ways, whereas I'm more sort of looking further ahead than he is, and also like he's more focused on like national news and stuff, and I like to focus more on like local issues and stuff people don't talk about. So, and I stay out of drama. So there's a lot of differences between me and Vosh, but still his community is really based. They've been really helpful and just really cool people to meet. So yeah, so yeah, that's been kind of my history. And yeah, I know everybody doesn't like the guy, but I come from his community, and I'm somebody who's not like, I'm not like, everything he says is right. I'm not one of those people. So, but yeah, that's sort of how I came up on Twitch, and it's been I've been affiliate for almost 14, 15 months now. So yeah,
Nice.
I have my 1 year, I think it's September. So, how long
Good.
have you been on Twitch?
Since April of last year.
Okay,
Well,
I discovered you pretty late then, probably
well,
through Epic Prawn.
to be fair though, so what I did in April, I had an internship, and they had me do a fundraiser, and I had to document 25 hours. So I did a 24-hour streaming fundraiser for my first stream ever. Uh,
Wow. First, I think I might. No, I don't remember. I wasn't there when you did that. But wow, 24 hours of your first stream. You went it. You jumped in the deep end.
yeah, it sucked. I've only d- I've, I've only done two 24-hour streams, and I can wait for a little
Yeah.
while. But regardless, and then I didn't do it for months on end, and I was just like, fuck it, let's do it a little bit more. And it's been a lot of fun. I think I've been doing it more since June or July. It's been a time, and here I am. But now you're at
I bet it has.
now you're at 700 followers.
Well, I'm at 723 right now. And
Jeez.
I cleaned up my follower list too. I cleaned to like ban people who aren't on Twitch anymore, people like that. And so I have yeah, I'm pretty happy with how my stream's growing so far, despite me not ever going. I've never been on debate panels. I don't clout farm off those, and if I do go on a panel, it's usually something like this. It's between me and another streamer, or I think the one panel I did a panel with Seductive Seaweed actually, where where they were talking about they did a panel on masculinity and men's liberation. That was really good. So yeah, I've done a few, but generally speaking, I have stayed off the clout train and just sort of grown my community through different means, whether it's through racing. So I got people in my community who aren't in the online left, so to speak. They don't hang out in these places, but they come over to my stream for racing and stuff, and it's sort of an interesting sort of mixing of communities, and that's kind of it is interesting to see how that's manifesting.
Has anyone told you that you've influenced their politics via racing?
A little bit, yeah. I think like I've had people in my community who say in racing, one of the problems is that they think that, oh, women can't drive, it's only for men. It's like, no, everybody can learn to do racing. It's a matter of skill and training, and some people, some really toxic. There's a lot of toxic masculinity in racing. And so people will be like, "Oh, well, women don't have the strength to drive a race car with the high amount of force and G forces." I'm like, "No, they absolutely can. It's a matter of training, you know." And it's there's no like gender specific thing that prevents them from doing that, right? It's just just if you look at the way like motorsports is like versus a lot of other sports, and even a lot of other sports, I would argue could be gender neutral. You could abolish gender in almost every sport, but I mean, there are like some. I mean, there's still like, there's still some things about that I can't expound upon right now. But yeah, certainly motorsports is something that I believe just everybody can do. I mean, obviously, yeah, you definitely need to be younger because reflexes and all that kind of stuff. But even older people, like there are examples of older people like Fernando Alonso. He's 42 and he's whipping around F1 cars like he's 22. I mean, he's insane. But that guy never ages. So,
He's an immortal racer.
Kinda, yeah. He's the real youngest driver in F1. Even though he's 42, or like Carlos Sainz Senior out of Spain. That guy's a world rally legend. He's won so many rally races. Oh, sorry, knock my mic. He won so many rally races back in the day. So yeah, there's a lot of examples of race car driver like Carlos Sainz. I think he's like 60 now or 62, and he's still doing a lot of rally racing. But he's not as like free. He's not like a full-time competitor, but he does like special races and stuff even at that age, and he is still incredibly quick. So yeah.
And then James says Ringo Starr doesn't age either. True.
That is true. Yeah.
Kind of like racing. Because you were doing F2 the other day, sim racing?
Yeah, no, so I do a number of different racing. I have all the different simulators installed. So I've got the F1 game, which has the Formula 1 cars, and it has Formula 2 cars. So just real quick, explainer what that is. Formula 1 cars, fastest, league race cars in the world, right? They're faster than Indy cars even. But the Formula 2 cars are like the junior class. So basically, they're slower. They're slower, and they are, they're more for like junior up-and-coming drivers who are trying to get into Formula 1 or Le Mans racing or IndyCar. So it's sort of like a college versus NFL, kind of. You could think of it that way.
Gotcha.
So F2 is like the college football of football.
Oh, so they're the NCAA. Gotcha.
Yeah, in a way, yeah, and a lot of the teams like Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, all the big names you hear, they all have driver academies where like from a young age, like from like when they're like 10 years old, they start to go into professional karting and then get into junior open wheeled racing, and then they get into eventually into Formula 3 too, and then of course one is the final goal for a lot of them. But yeah, and so they're different. They're slower. They're not as high horsepower, not as high downforce, but as F1. But they're still really, really fun. So that's why we enjoy it.
It sounded on your sound that it was very. I mean, they're all really technical doing the driving simulators or the racing simulators, but that one sounded like. When I was watching your stream, it sounded that was last Saturday. Very technical, I should say, if that's for lack of a better word.
Yeah, it's an interesting combination of sort of five head and also grug, if you know those emotes. It's like five head and grug at the same time. So you could think of it like, okay, yeah, you have to think about strategy and your higher temperatures and how long they're gonna last, but then you also have to have sort of a visceral feel for the car, and you have to have the physical strength to deal with the forces of the wheel. So in fact, I could show you all. I always do this. It's pretty heavy. But let me just show everybody my racing rig.
Yeah,
it's very heavy though. Let me just get it.
Yeah, no problem. Then Epic Prawn says, "Imagine gatekeeping driving cars, lol." True. Yes, James, you should be checking out Boymeetsmini, just because I shouted him out, but also you could tell pretty chill. Oh shit.
Yes, indeed. So this is my racing rig. It is very heavy. The motor on this, I think, weighs about 18 pounds. So it's you can curl with this if you want. I don't because I don't want to drop it and damage it. But yeah, that is my racing wheel. And then I have a round wheel so I can swap out the wheel part. So there's a quick release back here. And I have a big round wheel that I put on for rally or for anything like that. But this is for Formula One and GT3 racing. Very, very nice setup from Fanatec that I have. And it just clamps to the table. My pedals are on the floor, and they just plug right into the back of it, and it works. It's a great setup.
Wow, that's super awesome. 18 pounds, so it actually does simulate the G-forces, at least with the steering wheel, and what you'd be dealing with the tires and all that shit.
Not the G-forces, of course. I don't.
Yeah,
my body
sorry,
doesn't
my
get
bad.
knocked around.
That's not what I meant.
But certainly, yeah, the tires, the bumps, the the suspension of the car, and all that stuff. Yep, it will simulate that. So it is pretty cool in that respect. So you can actually feel when you're driving it. You can actually feel when the rear tires are gonna slip. So that's sort of your guide to where the limit is in a race car and when you're about to spin it. Which I used to spin a lot. I still do. My chat can attest to that. But I'm working on spinning less and less. It is hard to control some of these race cars, especially when you start to turn off assists and helpers in the game. Like you turn off traction control, and it's like, oh well, okay, now I have to do the traction control because the game isn't making it easy for me. It's like turning off aim assist in Call of Duty.
Yeah, true.
So it gets much harder. Yeah.
Do you do it competitively?
I want to this year. So last year I just sort of entered a couple of casual leagues. So that I've been, it just sort of friends I found through the F1 community, and it's just more of a casual league. But we are developing as drivers. And this year, one of my goals is to get into higher spec leagues. So like LFM, which is called Low Fuel Motorsports. They do a lot of GT3 racing in various simulators. So but I need to get my safety rating up and all that stuff. And there is a high requirement to enter LFM. So I'm looking at entering that, and then of course in iRacing, which is sort of a multiplayer online simulator, you build up your licenses in different racing categories. So there's road course racing, oval racing, and then of course there's dirt racing. So they have like all kinds of different cars. It's like the buffet. It's like the buffet a restaurant of racing simulators. You can race pretty much any race car there is. But yeah, you build up. So you have to build up your license and graduate it. So you start as a rookie, and then you have a D, C, B, and A license. A license, very few people have. It's hard to get there. But yeah, that is. I'm working on it.
So what's your license?
I'm a C license right now in road, and I haven't done enough iRacing. Haven't had the time. Been focusing on F1, but yeah, iRacing's a good simulator. A set of course is great. Trying to think, I used to play Forza Horizon 5, but that's more arcadey. I don't know. I fell out of love with Forza 5, but Forza Motorsport 5 looks cool. I saw the Microsoft event today. They showed that. We'll see how that is.
So, shit, I just lost my train of thought. My bad. Oh, I think it was the iRacing. I don't know is that the one where you drive the Mini Cooper?
No, there's another. There's always another one, right?
There's always another one.
So the Mini Cooper is in Automobilista 2. It's a Brazilian-made racing simulator. It's really cool. And they have a ton of cool cars in it. Yeah, the Mini Cooper's in there, and so you can race it on different tracks. And so basically, I've given myself a challenge. I upped the AI level, so it's really aggressive and fast. And I set up a 17 race championship at tracks around the world that I like. So we do that on stream some nights, but I haven't had time lately. But maybe next Monday, because we do basically what's called Mini Mondays, and so I will race against really tough AI. So,
because I think I was watching one of those, and there was a clip where you had a really smooth drift. I don't know if you remember this, but it was a smooth drift after, before the race ended, but also you hit the bumper pretty good. Thanks, babe.
I have a ton of clips. I don't know. I have to think which one that was where I had a really smooth drift.
Yeah, I know it's pretty vague for the amount that you probably played on stream, but it was very recently, probably about 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago.
Maybe. Oh, I think that was when I did the race at Brazil, because I think when the Because I did a whole like segment up about Brazil,
Mhm.
and then we did a race there, just for solidarity with Lula, of course.
Uh,
So yeah, I did that. But I that's the thing I like to do too. Is like I like to as part of my racing streams some nights, like not Saturdays, Sundays so much. Or no, the initial D drifting. Maybe that was it. Maybe that was it. So when I raced the tofu delivery car from Initial D, I have that.
oh, I think that was
uh,
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, the Fujiwara tofu shop, tofu delivery car. But yeah, I have that car, and we were drifting it around some toges, some hilly roads in Japan that I have installed. But yeah, that it might have been that one.
So you ever race with Beer Bash? Because I know he does the sim too.
Yes, I have. I've entered races with him, so like Porsche races. I haven't done any oval races like NASCAR or anything because I'm not ranked enough for that yet. But I will be. I will be. But it's just not a priority right now. But I have joined him in Porsche Cup races. Sort of those. If you ever see those crazy modded Porsche 911s that have the giant wings on the back that are for racing. Yeah, those things. Basically, yeah, we've entered F1 races before, things like that. So he's a good driver. He's very fast and consistent. His braking, I will say his braking technique is better than mine. I'm working on it.
How would you have good braking technique?
So the fundamental is I wish I put up the wheel, but I'm not racing tonight.
You're good.
But basically, so when you're entering a corner, right? You see a corner coming up. Let's say it's a right turn, right? So what you want to do is you want to hit the brakes enough. So before you enter the corner, you're on that straight part entering the corner. You want to apply a good amount of braking force just to get the car to really slow down. But then as you turn the car, you need to get off the brake as you turn. So basically, your as you turn the wheel, the foot that's on the brake needs to slowly come off with it. So you have to sink your hands and feet as you let off the brake and turn in. Right? So you turn in, and as you turn in, you get off that brake. And then as you get to the middle of the corner, then you start to accelerate out, and you basically slowly get on that throttle and accelerate out to the exit. And you want to cut corners as straight as possible, meaning if you've got say if you've got like a right hand corner like this, you want to go on the outside, cut to the inside, and then go to the outside. So basically, you want the straightest line possible through that corner. That's why you see race car drivers constantly riding the edge of the track, because they're trying, especially in corners, is because they're trying to get maximum speed out of there.
Gotcha.
And that is physically the fastest speed you can get. That's the fastest line. So that's why they do all those things.
See, I told you I wasn't going to treat it too much like an interview, but I have so many questions that's basically an interview now.
I know. No, it's cool because I know we don't really know. I mean, I've watched some of your streams and I've hung out with you in chats and stuff. But yeah, and also you're a fellow West Coaster just like me. So I'm on the West Coast as well. I'm in the Los Angeles area. So yeah, we're not too far apart. But yeah.
Yeah, when you said that you were,
go ahead.
When you said you were in LA, I was just like, holy shit, dude! I'm in San Diego. I'm only 2 hours away from you. Actually, less now because I live in northern San Diego. Not that I want to dox myself, but that's not the point.
No, yeah, you're not too far at all. I've gone down there sometimes for like Mini Cooper cruises. So yeah, I do own a Mini Cooper in real life. It's the one that you see on my intro screen. If you look at my VODs, that is the actual car I drive in real life. Of course, I changed the license plate to say BMM instead of my actual one. So that was some editing by me. But yeah, that is my actual car. And yeah, I've gone down cruises in sort of northern San Diego and those areas. It's fun.
So what is it with Mini Coopers that you love so much? Is it like community? The car? I'm assuming the cars are great, but what's your love for them? Where did it originate?
The community. So mainly they're fun little cars to drive. So the thing with minis is, obviously they're little front wheel drive cars, right? They're little subcompacts. But the cool thing with them is the chassis is really rigid and the wheels are on the corners, so they turn really, really well. You're really able to, like, people race them on tracks, on rally stages and stuff like that. They're built like little race cars, and so they're super fun to drive. When you take a corner, you really feel it. And so yeah, it's a zoom car, little zoom car. It's a little 4-cylinder 4-cylinder car you can drive very quickly. Let's put it that way.
Now that I've been
so,
watching your sorry about that. Now that I've been watching your streams, I've been noticing more Mini Coopers on the road.
I know the confirmation bias is the confirmation bias is settling in. I see.
Just like,
I do notice them quite a bit too.
well, just like how I bought a Chevy, and now that I notice more Chevys, I see more shitty drivers. Hopefully, not me though. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off though.
And no worries. So, yeah, basically that's I got one because I was like, well, I was 25 and looking to buy a nice car, an upgrade from the family hand-me-downs. So basically, I was looking around at different cars. Like I was like, okay, I've got a decent job now. I can afford something. And the Mini was just the one that like felt nice to drive, felt really, really fun, tactile to drive. Then I discovered there's a whole community around it. There's car clubs, and the cool thing about it, it's not just a bunch of like young guys with like you see like BMW clubs or whatever, and it's all just young guys with rich parents, which is really annoying, and they're really toxic. Whereas the Mini community is like a huge age range. You have people from like early 20s all the way like people who are retired. You have people, it's very diverse, a lot of men, women, a lot of trans people that drive minis, NB people that drive them, and so it is a really diverse community, very welcoming, and it's fun, and people buy them for different reasons. Some people it's their fun second car. Other people like myself, it's our only car, and it's our all-round do whatever car. So yeah, that is like one of the reasons I bought one, was because. Or those reasons I bought one, and I've been in a bunch of mini clubs. I'm in a lot of them, in sort of all their groups. I sometimes go on their cruises and stuff. So we'll go up in the mountains, not go too fast. I won't admit how fast we're going, but not go too fast. We're a little more responsible than some of the other groups, and we'll go shoot photos up in the mountains or by the beach or whatever. Or meet up for lunch. So yeah, it provides that, because a car is very isolating, right? Mm-hmm. Cars are isolating by nature. They isolate you socially. So it's good that a Mini, despite being, it's cool that a car can actually bring you community, and I think that's so cool.
That's a more international community compared to other cars like Corvettes, I would say.
Oh yeah. It's a very sort of heavily. There's a lot of Mini owners in North America, but there are a lot over in Europe. Europe and the UK is like the main. That's like where majority of Mini owners are. But I've also seen Mini clubs in Turkey and in China and Japan, and even in India. There's a small. It's not a popular car there, but like because you got to import it. It's not like made over there, so it is expensive. But there is a small contingent of Mini owners in India, and they have a community. So it's like it is getting pop. It is sort of very international. In fact, it's funny you say international. I'm actually one of the first overseas members of Portugal's Mini Cooper Club. So I'll have to go to Portugal and ride shotgun with them next. I'll have to make it out there and ride shotgun with them when they go cruising. So because they'll do like a Portugal-Spain combined rally, and they'll go all over Portugal and Spain. I don't know what time of year that is, but they did one last year, and I looked at the pictures. I'm like, I gotta go. I have to go.
Well, hopefully they'll probably let you know, I'm assuming. Well, you're part of the club, so that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're all over social media. Like they post it. So yeah, I'll have to plan a trip this year for Portugal, Spain, and the EU. I haven't been there much, so I gotta go.
So Mini Coopers, obviously number one. I mean, for goodness sake, your Boymeetsmini. What about number two?
Yeah, it's in the name. For cars? Number two for cars. Like, if I didn't own a Mini, tough. I would probably. That's a tough call. I would definitely want to go JDM. Something from Japan. Probably like a 19 F1 car. Yeah, no way. But for like daily driving, probably like I'm talking like 80s or 90s Japanese cars. Like I'm talking like the tofu delivery car, or a 1991 Acura NSX. Like those would be really cool cars to own. So yeah, well, more of the JDM. In fact, like the wheels that I got for my Mini, they're aftermarket. They're kind of JDM like in their look. So I kind of have that. I have that going on a British car, which is funny. So yeah, I would say any sort of 90s, 80s Japanese car, particularly like, Honda NSX, the Toyota AE86, the 90s Celica was really cool because it won a lot of rally races. Yeah, there's a ton of them. So,
So
or how about this? If I were to, sorry, one more thing.
you're
If I
good.
were to go really, really old for Japanese cars, how about like an early to mid 70s Nissan Skyline? Now we're talking.
All right. Well,
Yeah, there you go.
have you always been into racing, like from a really young age, or is this more recent?
I will always. I was even back when I was younger. So I was like 5, 6 years old, and it was like late '90s, and I watched all the late like F1, NASCAR, all that stuff. So I remember watching, like Michael Schumacher when he started winning, when Mika Hakkinen, and all those F1 guys. Like I used to watch that stuff. I used to watch. I also, used to watch NASCAR. So I saw Dale Earnhardt and all those guys back then. So, and then I just kept watching like through the 2000s. We had Fernando Alonso. We had drivers like that. Fernando Alonso, he's a Spanish Formula One driver. The guy, like I said, he's 40. He's the 42-year-old
Hmm.
F1 driver now. So, but he's been in it since like 2002, something like that. So he's been racing forever, and that guy is my number one for
Awesome.
um but yeah, just I've been watching since then, and I took a break from motorsports in high school. I wasn't watching it as much, but I started getting back into it sort of mid to late college when I was in engineering school, and then yeah.
What year did you graduate high school? Kind of off topic,
Uh,
but yeah.
I'm a boomer, 2007.
Oh, okay. No, I'm '09, so we're
I'm
not too far apart.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah.
So we're 30s gang. I love it.
Well, I was like, if he says '09, because the way you described your politics too, I was just like, dog, I got into Kolinsky. Dog, I got into David Packman. Dog, I love the Rational National. But
Exactly. Or maybe you were all about Obama in 2008 probably too, right? Let me
yeah,
guess.
uh-huh. Yeah. And then I learned more. It's a sad part though, is being like he's probably so far been the best in my lifetime, and that's not saying much.
I know it's terrible that that is the case, right? It's terrible that that is the best we've got. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's like I don't know. Well, we've got Bernie, but there's a number of things getting in his way, sadly. But we've got other people coming up. I'm confident with progressives. There are a lot of good ones that I've been looking at. Not just like the household names like AOC. I mean, I've been looking at in Arizona. I've been looking at Ruben Gallego. He's a U.S. rep, I think, from Phoenix, and he's looking to take Cinema's seat. So hopium. Let's see how far he gets with that.
Did you watch
Indeed.
Cinema's interview when she declared being independent?
Yeah, very cringe. I didn't watch it
Oh,
on stream. I'm not that big of a React streamer, but I did watch it offline, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is like she is just so taken by sort of the corporate class. It's not even funny. Like it's 1,000% corporate brain.
yeah, because now in my opinion, we're gonna have to work a little bit harder to get those votes passed in the Senate.
Yeah.
So, who's in charge of the Senate now? God damn it! Why am I blanking on it?
Well, it's Schumer, right?
Schumer.
It's a
Schumer.
Democrat majority.
I was
Yeah,
like,
and he's
yeah, and he's probably not gonna try to work with her.
no.
uh,
Unfortunately, I think he'll have to make. I think he knows that he has to make a ton of concessions before anything happens to get
oh
Cinema's
yeah.
vote. That's like it just makes it so much harder for no reason. So,
Uh,
also Arun's in my chat. Good to see you. I'll look at that after the. I'll look at that after the call. But yeah, that's I guess I don't know. Yeah, I actually wanted to ask you too. So like, what was because so the quick thing with my politics basically, since we're on the subject.
mhm.
So I grew up a evangelical, so evangelical Christian. So my family is kind of unique. Well, everybody's family is unique, but in terms of the context of sort of South Asia, my family is fairly unique. We are Christians from the northern state of Uttar Pradesh. Now, Uttar Pradesh is sort of in the northern part of India, near Delhi, near where the Taj Mahal is. It's in Uttar Pradesh. And that's where my family's from. And so basically, Uttar Pradesh is not a very high percentage of Christians. You're talking like 0.2% of the population is Christian. And you're talking about a state population of over 200 million people. It's the most populous state of any country in the world.
Jeez.
And you've probably never heard of
Nope.
it. So, yeah. Yeah, a lot of states in India have a lot of people. Like, how many? I'm trying to think. Maharashtra, where Mumbai is and the film industry is, Maharashtra is, I think, about 100 million. So, yeah, it's a lot of people in India. Of course, 1.4 billion in all, plus.
Right.
But yeah, Christianity is a very, very small minority religion in Uttar Pradesh, still considerable. And there, interestingly, in a lot of the cities there are a lot of churches, Christian-run schools. If you want to send your kid to a school that's like English where they teach English as the first language, generally they are run by churches, or church organizations. So yeah, so anyways, that is my background, sort of Protestant evangelical. That my whole family's in that, but I sort of fell out of love with it because yeah, convent schools, that's what a lot of Catholic churches run over there. But anyways, so initially my politics were very conservative because they were so informed by that. And even though like we immigrate to the United States and my mom and dad were generally sort of Democrat leaning politically, they were still very conservative socially. It's a similar trend to what you see in sort of the Latino, Latina, Latine, whatever the correct term is, community.
Latinx.
That's what you will see. I try not to use Latinx. So there's a thing with Latinx. Because I used to be in DSA Los Angeles. I started helping them out with mutual aid and stuff, and they had this discussion about the word Latinx, and so a lot of them were thinking, a lot of people from Latin America, a lot of people from there don't even use that term. It's sort of they sort of deem it sort of like an English American invention of a word. But I don't know. I try to be as inclusive as possible. But anyways, yeah. That it is a similar thing with people from Latin America, where they'll come here and they'll vote Democrat, and that's fine. But then a lot of their values are sort of socially conservative, where they're not as accepting of, say, LGBTQ people, or they're not as or they think, well, I'm an immigrant and I worked hard to get what I wanted. Why do we need social assistance programs? Like they will literally think in those ways, because they're very sort of individualist. There's a lot of individualist thinking and sort of when it comes to immigrant success stories and things like that. So yeah, that is one of the things where that's my background, has been sort of that evangelical Protestant background. And so as a kid, now I was allowed to watch cartoons and listen to some music and stuff like that, but then later toward high school my parents started getting more and more fundamentalist in their thinking, and so that's where I wasn't allowed to see certain shows. I wasn't allowed to go out with friends a lot. I was so I was just sort of focused on studying, and it sucked because my mental health went down pretty bad. And so yeah, that's where I sort of started turning against conservatism and started going more sort of the center and liberal, right? And then I went to college, started going to engineering school. So my major is electrical and computer science engineering. And so that sort of, made me a liberal. It's not a myth when they say that you go to college and you become a liberal. Anyways, but which is a good thing. It's a good first step. It's not enough, but it is a good first step. And so I started getting more liberal. Of course, you go to university and you're around all kinds of people from all over the world, not just people from your state or your town or whatever. And so that really opens you up to that. Also, I was bullied a lot in high school, racism. When you're the only brown, you and one other kid are the only brown kids in class, it's, you get a lot of bullying. A lot of bullying happens, so unfortunately. So yeah, and that sort of drove me away from, conservatism, because a lot of those people who are racist ended up being chuds. And so, and they were chuds. So I didn't like them. And so then, yeah, that's when it was through college, I started becoming more liberal, it started getting more progressive. And then one of my, and actually in regards to, I talk a lot about casteism and issues like that in the South Asian community. So South Asia, for those who don't know, it's not just India. It's also Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and all the surrounding countries in the subcontinent, and also Mauritius, which is in the Indian Ocean, that is a high population of South Asian people. And Afghanistan is also included as well because the languages are related to Pakistan and India. So, anyways, and of course, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, right? There's so many countries, and of course, the Tibetan people as well. So South Asia, in what I found is when I was at university, they had an Indian Student Association. First of all, it's kind of a sus name. Only Indians, no Pakistani and all, but they sort of included everybody in that. They tried to include people from outside of India who were still South Asian, right? So there were Sri Lankan people there were Pakistani people there were Bangladeshi people, and like everybody was there. But then I noticed, like after being part of the Indian Student Association
Oh shit! What happened?
for a while, they found out I was Christian. And so, and at the time, I was still sort of a practicing Christian. I still sort of consider myself Christian adjacent, but more in the sort of Christian socialist, sort of Christian anarchist direction. That's kind of where I'm leaning these days. But I still consider myself sort of Christian adjacent in that I do think that they can be turned left. Some of them, especially moderate and progressive Christians, I think they can do more. But anyways, when I was in the Indian Student Association, they found out I was Christian. And so what ended up happening is they basically stopped inviting me to stuff because a lot of the people who, thank you for joining the pit crew, Dr. K Paradise, appreciate it. Yeah, and so the Indian Student Association was run by was like the people who ran the club, or sort of they like you spend enough time with them and then you start to realize they don't like Muslims, they don't like South Asian people who are not Hindus, basically. And also I did witness, they were making fun of someone in the club for their caste. They basically said, "Oh, that guy's a Dalit, and his family's probably like this," and they made fun of him because he was poor. And he came from a Dalit is like, those are like the lowest castes in India. Yeah, and of course there's Sangis. With Sangi in India, in Hindi or in a lot of Indian languages, Sangi means somebody who is a Hindu nationalist, a fascist, basically. So I don't know if you've read about the rise of sort of extreme Hindu nationalism in India, but it is probably one of the largest right-wing movements in the world. And probably, if not the largest right-wing movement in the world. Yeah, it's really, really messed up. And so, unfortunately, yeah, I saw that and they stopped inviting me to stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm leaving the club. And so that was just in a university club. Okay. And then so that's what sort of informed my views on, that's what got me to like stop liking Gandhi. I know a lot of liberals will put a photo of Gandhi in their living room or whatever to show that they're, nonviolent and all this stuff. I'm like, Gandhi, for those who don't know, Mahatma Gandhi, as influential as he was in sort of challenging the British and on all that stuff, he was he's insanely racist. He had some really sus history with SA, with assaulting women. He had a lot, and also, violating age of consent. He had direct correspondence with Hitler a number of times. Sort of called him a friend. He was weird. He was a weird, like, centrist guy. Like he engaged. Sorry, he engaged with like Indian freedom fighters and Western leaders, like the president of the United States. But then he would have correspondence with Hitler too, and be like, I think about all sides. And yeah, he was really, really weird. Yeah, and he was insanely racist. He especially against black people when he was a lawyer in South Africa when he was younger. He did not treat black people very well in South Africa. Called Zulu people the N-word a lot. Yeah, so Gandhi was pretty cringe, and also Gandhi upheld the caste system in India, which is basically a system that sort of categorizes people into classes and a number of other factors: class, family lineage, occupation, ethnicity, things like that. So it's this ancient system of classification of people that's based on a number of factors. Yeah, it's really messed up. Yeah.
Didn't he also have issues with minors too?
Yep. Unfortunately, yep, he was a nonce. I don't know how else to say it. Yeah, so that's when I started to shift away from Gandhi and toward figures in Indian history like Ambedkar, B.R. Ambedkar. He was he was a Dalit freedom fighter. Yeah, Jai Bhim. To anybody, Chad, Jai Bhim is a saying we have because a lot of people call him the father of the Indian Constitution because he actually framed the Constitution of India post independence. Yeah, he was very instrumental in the freedom movement in India, especially for people of lower caste and of course for indigenous people too, whom we call Adivasi people. So they're like our indigenous people. They speak indigenous languages and unfortunately, just like indigenous people in the U.S. and Canada and many other places in the world, India and South Asian countries do not speak, are not treated very well by the Indian government. So. And yeah, Arun just posted in Hindi in my chat, Jai Bhim, which means all praise Bhim, Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar. That's his full name, but Ambedkar is his last name. But yeah, Jai Bhim is sort of the saying for that. And also, there were other leaders like Periyar, who was more anarchist leaning, and so many others, Savitribai Phule. There were so many, like, I started reading into Indian history and South Asian history more, and that's where I sort of had this strong thing against caste and Bhagat Singh, him also. So like I started to get into that and sort of realize that, hey, the Indian Student Association, a lot of people in the South Asian community still hang on to this caste thing, even though they've immigrated 12,000 miles, from the motherland to here, and they still carry that with them, and they, to their fellow South Asians, they'll make fun of them for their caste or their skin color. There's colorism, there's casteism, there's interreligious hatred. Like I've even seen Indian Christians here. I witnessed it where they'll talk down Hindus and Muslims as worshippers of false gods, and basically say that they all need to become Christian. They want to impose Christianity on the entire South Asian immigrant population in the United States. I'm like, that's messed up. It's like that's the kind of stuff I speak out on when it comes to that. So especially being somebody from a South Asian Christian family, from that community of Christians, there's a lot of issues we have in that community. Just because we practice a more Western form of religion doesn't mean we are any more progressive, than say Hindu nationalists or there's a lot of issues in Islam as well. As great as peaceful and as a base of religion as Islam is, there's a lot of extremist elements, unfortunately, and that's entered India too, like jihadism and stuff like that. So there's a number of issues, but yeah, that's where sort of like my sort of education as a South Asian person really came through when I started learning about about this. And so because before that I was pretty much raised in America. Like I didn't grow up in India. I was born in India, but I came here when I was little. I was like 4 years old, not even that tall, So I was about as tall as this table when I came here, and so I didn't really have that experience of growing up in India with everything that goes on over there. And so then I sort of relearned it through my experiences in college with the Indian Student Association. So there's all that, and yeah, that's why I talk about these issues and bring light to them, much in the way that Arun does. And I wish I had more streams dedicated to that. It's not my exclusive focus, but it's certainly something that I will dedicate more time to.
So
anyways, that was a long answer.
Oh yeah, no worries. I was going to ask if Indian politics, because I know you look at a lot of international politics, but are you keeping up to date with politics in India?
I try to, because right now politics in India is very precarious. You have to consider it is the most populated country on earth right now. I mean, they have surpassed China's population, I think, as of a couple of years ago. So it is the biggest country on earth. And so population-wise, and unfortunately, you have a very far right-wing government that I consider fascist. Now, some people may, especially people who support the government and sort of the right-wing party that runs it, the Hindu Nationalist Party, they will say, oh, you can't call them fascists. They don't have swastikas. I'm like, wait a minute. Yes, they're fascist beyond question. And so in a number of ways. So one, they are very they basically believe in what's called a Hindu Rashtra. It's palingenetic ultranationalism. Yeah, they believe in a Hindu Rashtra, which basically is a Hindu nation, meaning Hinduism. It's basically they want a Hindu theocratic state, much in the way the GOP wants a Protestant Christian theocratic state in the United States. They also are like violently anti-Muslim. Like there are a lot of insurgency groups over there that are Hindu nationalists. They will burn mosques. They will go into neighborhoods and terrify people. There's been acts of terrorism against Muslims and Christians and other and also people of lower castes and of indigenous people there. And yeah, it's pretty bad. Like, it's really doomer. If you read about like what Hindu nationalists do, you're like, oh my God, these guys suck.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, what I keep telling people is what's going on over there, if we don't act enough in America, if we don't push back enough against the GOP and we keep compromising with them and we keep doing middle ground stuff with them, if we keep doing that, the GOP is going to end up like the right-wing Hindu nationalists in India. There's going to be obviously in the levels of government, they're going to be taking over. It will happen here. And so India, I would actually argue, has had its Weimar moment quite a few times. From the 90s with the burning of mosques, like the Babri Masjid in northern India. In 92, that was a huge thing because that was a Muslim holy site. They burned it to the ground and built a massive temple there. And that was really controversial. And the national government did that, like, for no reason. There was no, like, there was nothing, like, there was no reason to do it. Yeah. There's been a number of riots, interreligious riots throughout Indian history, like the one in 2002 in Gujarat. So yeah, there's a ton of going on over there, and it's like, and now, like, they're making, basically, if you're a Muslim person and you're a refugee from a country, say like Syria, Palestine, or from Afghanistan particularly, they do not let Afghan Muslims into India. They don't allow them. They only let Afghan people who are not Muslims in. Like, they specifically single out Muslim refugees. Yeah. Yeah, and of course Sri Lanka. You've been seeing sort of maybe in the news about Sri Lanka, how the country's economy has collapsed. Well, they have a similar problem. They've been genociding the Tamil people. So Tamil people are sort of they're like two main groups of people or two main sort of groups of people in Sri Lanka, the Sinhalese people and the Tamil people. So the Tamil people are sort of the Sinhalese people have been in sort of the ruling class of Sri Lanka for a long time, for years. And the Tamil people have actually been undergoing genocide and displacement in Sri Lanka for a number of years, and discrimination. A lot of hate, yeah. So there's a lot of hate in South Asia, and unfortunately, it's coming to a head now where it's reaching the national government, it's taking over institutions, and a lot of the sort of things you hear about in India where, like, entire, like, Muslim neighborhoods or Muslim majority neighborhoods, a lot of them are bulldozed, or like you'll see huge crowds of Hindu nationalist extremists. They'll go in there in front of the mosque and they'll bring a pig up there and stuff and like offend Muslims and do all kinds of stuff. Like, it's horrible. Mass executions. It's terrible, like, what's going on over there. So my point is that, like, as a South Asian person, we're over here, immigrated over here to the United States. There's like 4 or 5 million South Asian people immigrated to the United States, and they think they're separate of those issues and they don't need to care about it. It's like, no, you should.
Right.
And the reason is because that stuff could happen here as well. So anyways, I'll get off my soapbox about this, but that is like one of the reasons I cover that. And India, well, I hope not, Arun. I hope I mean, yeah, some parts of India definitely are. I could definitely see that starting out in Gujarat or Uttar Pradesh, certainly, where there's a lot of, yeah. And so Arun said India is basically at a pre-Civil War Sri Lanka stage, probably. Yeah. In many parts, I would argue that. Probably Kashmir in particular. I'm concerned about Kashmir. Because that's like the northern part of India that like borders Pakistan and China. Right. It's been heavily disputed for years. So that's... And pogroms are happening in certain regions. Yeah, it's increasing. And unfortunately, people are saying, well, Hindu nationalists have a seat at the table too, and they have freedom of speech too. I'm like, okay, that doesn't mean you can go burn out Muslim neighborhoods or bulldoze their houses. And, you can't put people in camps. Like, that's not free speech, guys. So, anyways.
That's what we call violence.
Absolutely.
Stochastic
and it's genocide.
Terrorism.
It is, yes, stochastic terrorism, and of course, it's part of the whole genocide of people who are of people they don't like. So,
Epic Prawn says India might end up being that country, awful as that would be. Yeah, from what it sounds like. What is
Yeah.
so? Clearly, I'm not really nuanced on South Asian politics. What is the difference between Pakistan and India? And as far as I know, one is called Pakistan, the other one's called India.
So the origin of so you have to the one thing you got to learn the concept of India. So because we have so many languages, we have so many when you go to different parts of India, it feels different. Think of India like the EU, right? And so when India was the British Raj and it included all those countries, it included Sri Lanka and Pakistan and Nepal and Bangladesh, like it was all one sort of colony, right? That's where the sort of the concept of India comes from. Before the British came, there was no real unification of India. It was a number of different kingdoms that have and empires that have ruled throughout history in the subcontinent. So geographically, sure, definitely related, but like the concept of a unified India didn't really come until the resistance against the British, right? And so then what the British did, because the British love to stoke division, and even after they leave a place, like for example, Israel Palestine, that's they contributed to that. So the British actually drew the line between Pakistan and India. And also they drew the line between India and Bangladesh, which at that time was called East Pakistan. So, and the reason they did it is they wanted to separate Muslims and Hindus. So basically, a lot of Hindus who lived in Pakistan, they got forcibly shipped over on trains to India. Yeah, a very very Hitler-esque move by them, to say the least. But like Stalin did with the Crimean Tatars, right? Very very similar thing. So basically, the reason it's called India and Pakistan is because of that division. Now, if you actually look at the regional sort of divisions of India, it's mainly by language and by sort of ethnicity and stuff like that. So basically, in Pakistan, you have multiple ethnicities. You have Punjab. So the state of Punjab is actually split along the India-Pakistan border. So the the eastern half is in India. The western half of Punjab is in Pakistan, right? And then you have Sindh, which is where the big city of Karachi is. You have Balochistan, which is sort of bordering Afghanistan. There's a number of different regions that I'm probably missing. Yeah. Yeah, so there basically the whole Pakistan India thing was a product of British sort of imperialism and how they wanted to leave. They basically wanted to do religiously divide people, and so that was the same thing with East Pakistan, right? They wanted to divide Bengal into West and East, and East Bengal was reserved for Muslims, basically. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. That's what I figured it was. Was that religious divide? I didn't know if there was more context to it that I was
Yep, that's
unaware of.
basically it. And also, oh yeah, Sri Lanka and Nepal were never part of the British Raj. My bad. Yeah, they were separate colonies. Sri Lanka was Ceylon back then, and of course Nepal was a separate colony. Or no, Nepal was never part of the British Raj, but it was. They did. There was a lot of British influence there, right? Nepal has always. If I remember correctly, Nepal was sort of independent of the British, but they traded. They were allies with them. I have to double check my history, but and I do hope to, like, through the streaming and through presenting this content, I do my own research more, and I want to become more educated in this process as well. So. Yeah, Nepal was independent, I figured, but they were allied with the British for a long time, and then they sort of ally with India in ways. But there is a complex relationship between Nepal and India. It is kind of interesting. Anyways,
Oh, there was also something you were going to ask me earlier, but I don't know if you ever did.
I don't know. Anyway, go
It's
on.
all good.
Go on.
So, are there parties in particular that you're keeping up with in the India system, like the Communist Party and all that stuff? Because you were talking about the other day, the Communist Party of India has a whole slew of problems too.
Yes, so the Communist Party of India is there. I wouldn't use the label tanky on them because they're not exactly that. So when the places where the Communist Party of India, and the Communist Party of India is actually two factions. There's multiple, yeah, there's multiple factions. The main one is sort of Marxist-Leninist, and then the other one is Maoist. So they're sort of Marxist-Leninist Maoist, and so Yeah, but there's dozens. There's dozens of regional communist parties and stuff. But basically, if you're talking about like they all have this common problem of where, when they are in power, they're basically social democrats functionally as far as policy, and they're kind of sort of limited by the national government, which is understandable. But yeah, they're basically social democrats policy wise. They don't do a lot of systemic change as far as like wealth distribution and things like that. Like they do some things, but it's social democrat stuff. Now, the other problem is that the Communist Party of India, they do not want to abolish caste. They specifically, one of their positions is they want to keep the caste system. So they're very casteist. They uphold the caste system in a lot of ways, and they ally actually with the far right wing BJP, the Hindu Nationalist Party, on a lot of things. On paper they're against caste, but in practice they are not. That's why I count.
Sounds ironic.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, on paper they're against caste, but in practice, no, they are very casteist. And also, you know, they also like they're class reductionist as well, where yeah, they're class reductionist where they don't look at issues like caste or religion or you know, or gender or intersect, like they don't think about intersectional feminism. They just sort of reduce everything to economic issues, which that's not true. So that's the problem with them. There's a number of other problems with the Communist Party of India, but and they are the ruling party in a couple of provinces. So in Kerala, which is in the south, they are the majority party. They are currently in power. They're I guess the government there. The state government is the Marxist-Leninists. They're in power, and then I think in West Bengal as well. But they're kind of shaky in West Bengal at the moment, where Kolkata, the city of Kolkata is. They had power, yeah. They're out now, but yeah. So, but I've also talked about the BJP. So the BJP is currently the big dog in Indian politics. Okay, so the problem is they are far right wing Hindu nationalists. Their whole thing, they basically have co-opted Hinduism into this nationalist, ethno-nationalist thing. It's very, very fascist. So basically, they think that, you know, like I said, they want a Hindu nation. They want a theocracy. They want, you know, they do crazy things like they want Hindu men to marry Muslim women and convert them. And of course, they want to break the age of consent doing that too. So they want child marriage as well. Yeah, it's really messed up. But unfortunately, in India, a lot of people are voting for the BJP because the BJP plays the populism game. They basically, when in election and when they campaign, they promise, you know, better schools, better road, like all the populist stuff, right? But then when they get in power, they do a lot of really ghoulish things. So, and they don't do those populist things that they promised, right? So they make everything worse. And so now in India, you have high unemployment. You have a huge wealth gap. India's wealth gap is one of the biggest in the world. And so, yeah. It is most people are left behind in sort of all the economic growth that you kind of see in India. Like, yeah, the tech industry is growing. Yeah, agriculture is growing. Yes, you know, other industries are growing, but all that money is being funneled to the top, you know, because India is very hyper capitalist in the way it operates. So, yeah. And of course, you know, the caste system, it's reinforced further by the caste system and other stuff. Yeah. And India's manufacturing's falling. Like, there's a number of things that are sort of like systemic problems failing for multiple reasons, not just purely economics. So, but yeah, the ruling part, the party I focus on a lot is the BJP because they are the party we need to like bully out of power. Yes, I don't like the centrist parties, you know, the Indian National Congress. They're sort of center right neoliberal. I don't like the AAP, which they're sort of centrist populists. The common man's party, basically. I don't like them for a number of reasons. But anything we can do is to get the BJP out of power is step zero, basically. Yeah, and AAP is really goofy and centrist and weird, as much populism as they push, and you know, for the few good things they've done. But anyways, yeah, that is like why I focus on that is why mostly focus on the BJP. Particularly the part of India I'm from is not run by the Communist Party. Communists are a tiny majority. I don't think that the communists even have a single seat in my state, in Uttar Pradesh. So Uttar Pradesh is almost majority BJP. They have 80% of the seats in the state legislature, so they're basically a super majority in my home state. Yeah, my home state, the biggest state of any country in the world, is a super majority of fascists.
Oh,
Lovely.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just what it is. Do you
Yeah.
do you happen to think that a lot of American politics, or vice versa, has influenced Indian politics too? Like the rise of fascism, being able to influence other countries, and right-leaning, alt-right people being able to espouse their bullshit.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. Yeah, basically, so quick situation in Uttar Pradesh. There are a number of things going on, but basically, like with elections. So we talk about how Republicans want to upend elections here. In India, they've been doing it forever. The BJP has been doing it forever to upend elections, rig elections, not count votes, tamper with voting machines. That's been happening for years there, and particularly with the recent adoption of more electronic voting systems, they've been sabotaging those as well. There have been many cases of election fraud there. Also, during they'll bribe politicians to switch parties. They will, and also like voters, so BJP voters, they will throw stones. They will literally throw stones at people who don't vote BJP. Like they get violent about it. And so, unfortunately, there's a lot of violence coming from that side. And unfortunately, they are the super majority in states like Uttar Pradesh and Gujarat. And the current prime minister, actually, Narendra Modi, who I call Saffron Santa because he's Fash Santa basically because he's got a white beard and everything. So I call him Saffron Santa for that reason. But yeah, he's from Gujarat state. So instead of gifts, he brings death. Indeed, he's the death bringer. So yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of that going on in UP. So what I'm saying is that a lot, and also a lot of the far right stuff here. So a lot of the wedge issues they bring up, like the right, the transphobia from the right wing and from TERFs. You're seeing that in India too. So you'll see Hindu nationalists, they're TERFs. They will, they'll use, they'll be, they want to basically off trans people a lot of times. So they will use them as that, as sort of a wedge issue. Also, so there is definitely influence from the West, the right wing of the West and of Russia as well, in India, where basically a lot of Hindu nationalists still support Russia and the Russia-Ukraine conflict. They will use trans people as a wedge issue. They will use they're against wokeness and the pride flag in any way. A lot of when they have pride parades in India, a lot of times, LGBTQ people, they'll get stones thrown at them by these Hindu nationalists, and there'll be violence against them. So, and the police will arrest. The police are in on it too, by the way. A lot of police are Hindu nationalists. Surprise, surprise. So there's a lot of propaganda over there as well, coming from the right. So there's a lot of similar trends that I see. So I try to bridge those two and try to help people see the parallels and how like India is further along than America when it comes to marching toward fascism. India is basically almost there. They're much closer to fascism than the United States, but the United States is not far off. Like, people say, oh, I voted Biden, fascism's gone. I'm like, no, this is a long project. This is going to be at least a generation or two before we can like root out fascism completely. So in India, basically, yeah, is a functionally fascist country. Yeah, we have voting. Yes, we have a constitution, we have parliaments, we have all that stuff, but we are functionally a fascist nation. That is the problem.
James says America, this is from earlier, America has a lot of different languages, empires, etc., even though people don't like to admit it. Yeah, they like to propagandize and pretend that it doesn't exist, but it still does.
Yeah, the mythos of America that's taught in every textbook.
So in regard to trying to root out fascism in India, is there anything being done?
Yes, there's a number of movements now. As usual, there's always issues with these movements, but there is a sort of rising, I would say a sort of a rising trend, especially among younger people, Younger people to resist that. And particularly you're seeing it in certain states where the BJP is not a majority. If I go home to Uttar Pradesh right now and start saying this stuff, a lot of people are gonna, call me whatever. They're gonna call me slurs and all that and say you need to support the BJP. They're the right thing for India. But if I go to other states, so if I go to Tamil Nadu, where Arun is from, they'll kill me either way. Yeah, like some of them get really violent. They'll hurt or kill me. Whereas, like in other states that are not as BJP majority or where BJP has been losing majority, there is a rising movement of young people who want to oppose them. Now, of course, the replacement for the BJP, we don't have a lot of good options. Like I said, the centrist parties are not that great. Some of the regional parties are very sort of ethno-nationalist and in their own weird ways. So there are definitely, and of course, like most of the parties in India still want to uphold the caste system, which is really bad. So, but there is a strong movement in India against the caste system, sort of what we call Ambedkarism, right, or Ambedkarite movements, which basically they want to follow in Ambedkar's footsteps about that. Yeah. Yeah, and there's VCK probably or Bahujan Samaj in UP is probably like that. So, but yeah, that is but yeah, that is those are the things that sorry, I'm just dealing with something in my chat, but
You're good.
Dalit Panthers Party. So yeah, you know how we had the Black Panthers in the United States, right? There's the Dalit Panthers in India. That's pretty cool.
Jeez.
That's pretty awesome.
You ever go back to visit?
I have gone back 6 times in my life, and usually for extended visit, like for a month or longer. But yeah, ever since like I haven't had a chance in the last few years to go back. And I don't know, would I go back? I want to go see my family. That's the main thing. As far as like how do I say this? As far as like I don't know how safe I'd feel over there right now. Like things are so volatile there, and like I wouldn't go join a protest or a pride parade. Like I would be very sort of self-conscious about where I am and stuff. But yeah, going back there now, because it's been 7 years since I've gone back. I don't know. But my family lives there, and my grandfather's getting old, and I want to go see him. So thank you, Da Roomba, for the raid. One of our fellow streamers in our community here. Da Roomba just gave me the raid. Thank you for that. Thank you for your trans stride emote. Love that emote. That's awesome. Good to see you, Skeptomaniac. So yeah, Raiders, just real quick, I'm y'all know who I am, Boymeetsmini, but I'm on a call with Jet. Jet has some questions for me, and we're sort of just shooting the shit too. So yeah, we're talking to Jet Extremist here. Go follow Jet if you haven't already. Please go follow him. He's awesome. Anyways, but yeah, I would go back just to see my family and stuff, but I wouldn't like travel around too much and so yeah. Oh, Darumba got the shiny. Darumba's been shiny hunting in Pokemon Sword and Shield, and he finally got the shiny what is that? The not Lugia, the other bird. Whatever that what was that other bird? It starts with a Y. It's one of the other big bird Pokemon. Yveltal. So you got a shiny Yveltal today. So GG.
Nice. I haven't caught up with Pokemon since Gen 5, so I'm behind.
Yeah, well, for Pokemon, I stopped playing after Gen 2 because in high school, because my parents basically gave away my Game Boy to my younger cousin and said, "You're too old for this. Grow the hell up." And now, of course, I'm playing Arceus again, and I just got Violet. So once I get far enough in Arceus, I'll have to start Violet. I'm back in the Pokemon. I'm back in the seat for Pokemon at age 33. So that's great.
So in regard to like your personal politics, so going way back to the beginning of this, you talked about like Kyle Kalinske, like being exposed to him and bringing you further to the left. What brought you to him, and then what drew you away?
I would say the main thing that started moving me left, which was the main thing that moved me left basically was my experiences growing up in evangelical church. And around the time I wanted to vote for Bernie and stuff, I started looking at people like Kyle because Kyle has this weird way, as cringe as he is now, back then, like 2015, Kyle was actually kind of cool. He spoke to people who were in the center, who were to the right, and who were in those in that sort of sphere. He spoke to those spheres very well. And so one of the things that got me with one of my formative experiences of moving left initially, I was I used to do a lot of music worship in church. That's where I learned to play guitar. So I've been playing guitar for a number of years, and I don't play as often as I used to, but I want to get back more into it. But and probably do some music production and stuff for just for fun. Not for a living, of course. I'm not that great, but I could be great. I have to work on it. So I used to lead. I used to play guitar. Help with the band. Sometimes I used to lead and stuff like that. Lead worship and all that. So I was in the music worship band, and so there was an event one night we were doing, and there was like 3,000 people there, and there was this evangelist, unironically from India, but they were was preaching not just to an Indian audience, to just everybody, right? It was like a number of churches got together, and it was sort of this sort of big revival event that we were doing. So, and this evangelist was giving a speech, and he basically did all the sort of anti-LGBTQ stuff, like it's not Adam and Steve, it's Adam and Eve, that kind of stuff, right? And toward the end of that service, so this evangelist from India was he was also doing the healing prayer thing. So basically, one guy hobbled up to the stage with his crutch and his he was on crutches, and of course the pastor, the preacher healed him, healing prayer and all, laying hands on him and stuff.
Amazing.
But here's the funny thing, where what put a red flag in. I had a red flag come up my head. I'm like, I saw that, and because I was on stage, standing on the side, waiting for the, to do the last few songs. And during the healing prayer, I recognized that guy. I'm like, wait, that guy who walked up the stage with crutches came in walking normally. He didn't have crutches. I recognized that guy. He had like a unique shirt on and stuff. Like I recognized that guy. Like he didn't come in with crutches. He was walking. So I'm like, wait a minute, this guy's pretending, and that's when it started to unravel right there on stage. And then later they were taking prayer requests from people, so people were coming up to the stage and praying, for whoever in their family, whatever. And so one mom came up on stage, and she was like a real Karen, and she basically was like ranting. And this was the year was, I think, 2013, 2014. This was like early 2014. So this mom came up on stage and was praying that my daughter is saying that she's lesbian, and the devil's influencing her, and please pray for her that she will become a good, chaste young woman, and all this stuff. It's like, it was really, really creepy and manipulative and messed up. And I that threw a red flag in me as well. As rooted as I was in the Word of God, as rooted as I was as a Christian, I couldn't stomach that. And I just saw the bigotry. Even then, even when I was more center right, more evangelical and religious in my beliefs, I don't know, there was a part of me that wanted to rebel against what she was saying and say, hey, let your daughter be who she wants to be. If she wants to change her pronouns to they, them, and she ends up, and she's more sort of non-binary in their expression and all that, it's fine. Let children grow up into who they want to be. And who they're becoming. Let that naturally play out. Don't force cis heteronormativity and amatonormativity on them. Yeah,
not
and
to
so
mention
even
if it's not hurting anyone, what do you care?
Exactly, but it hurt her. It's hurting me spiritually and all this BS, right? It's like, no, it's like God created everybody. We humans think that, everything is supposed to be heterosexual and cis heteronormative and amatonormative, right? That's our assumption. Who are we to say what God creates? God creates everybody. God creates people who God creates trans people. God creates, non-binary people. God creates intersex people. If you believe if you believe the creation myth, which obviously I don't. I do believe in evolution and science and things like that. But yeah, you know what I mean? It's like,
right.
it's just if you want to get across to somebody who is a Christian, especially in my where I'm from, the South Asian Christian community, a lot of them believe in creationism. They don't like the whole evolution narrative and stuff, and so it's like, okay, to explain it in their terms, I could say, hey, look, God created all these people. Who are we to question God? God created all kinds of people in history. And in fact, even in the Torah, I believe there are 8 different forms of gender. It's not just a binary. If you go, like, if you talk to a lot of Jewish people, they'll tell you this. In the Torah, there are actually multiple. There are actually more than just a gender binary. There's like multiple genders described in the Torah. So yeah, it is kind of it is so that was like my trigger point. That was one of my trigger points. And that night I literally told the worship leader, who's also an Indian guy. I told him, because we were from some sort of South Asian church, but we were combined with one of the other big church groups, and we sort of had a combined band. It was pretty fun actually, but then of course the end of that service just grossed me out. So
Right.
basically I told the band leader, I'm like, I'm quitting. He's like, what? You're one of our best people and you play guitar so well, and is the devil influencing you, and God wants you to serve, and all. He was trying to manipulate me to keep me and all that stuff. And I was like, no, if that's the kind of stuff we are backing, if that's what we are supporting with our worship, with our gift of music, I don't want any part of it. I quit. And of course he sent me a really angry email and said, the devil's influencing you, the woke left is influencing you, the communists, you're going communist. Like, he accused me of being a communist.
Oh,
I'm
thank
like,
you.
maybe I should reach back out to him and say, hey, you were right about the communist thing.
Thank you for planting that seed in my head.
9 years later, yeah, you were right, dude. I'm one of them. But but anyways, that was like my trigger point. So I started looking online. I just started looking on YouTube, and one of the big lefty channels at the time, the big lefty channels were who? Kyle Kalinske, the Young Turks, and David Pakman. They were they were dominating, and so that's just what I gravitated to. Obviously, I don't agree. Kyle is very class reductionist in a lot of his takes, especially these days, and he's very sort of, he's a populist, like what we see on Rising and stuff. I don't like what they're doing there. But anyways, them aside, that was basically my entry point to the left. And so, yeah, and then I then, of course, the whole Obama presidency, right? I started to see, okay, Obama's doing all these drone strikes. Obama is, sort of, I saw how the economy was like failing under him, right, in a lot of ways, and also how workers are being treated. So yeah, I started to go more in the Bernie direction, which is cool. I'm glad to be in the side, and I plan to be. It's funny, like, a lot of people say you get more conservative as you get older. I'm getting more radical, dude. I'm 33 and I'm getting more radical. It's funny because some of my friends say, dude, just keep things normal and stay in the middle. I'm like, why would you want to stay in the middle? Things suck right now. We all need to get more radical, and sort of rethink a lot of this stuff.
There's a meme that you probably appreciate, but exactly what you said, like, oh, people say you get more conservative when you get older. It's a picture of like the NASCAR track and cars going left.
I know. Oh, I have a conspiracy theory, if you don't mind me sharing that. I don't know if you allow. I have a conspiracy theory, which is basically that all NASCAR drivers are secretly anarcho-communist, and they just don't tell the fans because they don't want to lose the fan base.
Subliminal racing and messaging.
Yeah. Yes, because they constantly turn left. They're secret anarcho-communists, like all of them, Joey Logano. I'm going to name him. Joey Logano and Jimmy Johnson. Well, Jimmy Johnson's retired, but, Jimmy Johnson and, Ross Chastain and Bubba Wallace and all these, they're all secret anarcho-communists. Dale, raise hell, praise Dale. He was an anarcho-communist, because they always turn left. Anyways, yeah, don't tell the fans, because if you remember in 2020, NASCAR outlawed the Confederate flag. Mm-hmm. They allowed people to display it for a long time, and then they outlawed it in 2020. Said, we're not, if you show that at a race, you're banned for life from NASCAR. And a lot of fans didn't like that. It's like, my Southern pride. Yeah. So yeah.
And Epic Prawn says, you get more conservative as you get older, quote unquote. No, the world gets more progressive and you don't progress with it. True.
That's the reality. Yeah, that is the reality. There are people who, they're influenced by things, whether it's churches or conservative media, or not even conservative media. A lot of, people that get older, they read about like stock investments and stuff, and that is one of the entry points into conservatism is sort of finance media, right? Is reading about investments and business, and then that's where a lot of people get these views. You wonder, how are people against strikes and stuff? Well, you read enough Wall Street Journal, you will be very capitalist. So, yeah.
Then what turned you away from Kyle? It sounds like you had some things, but I don't know if there was like a specific point, like a point that you could identify off the top of your head. Like, for instance, for me, during 2020, the election, Kyle said, "I'm not going to vote this election. You guys can vote. Like, feel free to vote, but I'm not going to do it." I'm like, that's highly irresponsible. You're one of the few content creators that said, vote no matter what, and you just went against your own principle. I'm sorry, I'm done. But I always have a soft spot for Kyle. I always have a soft spot.
So the one thing that stuck, the one thing that got me with Kyle is he goes against progressives a lot for things they don't have control over. So, for example, the way he goes after AOC, he goes after AOC in many like often, especially now. You have to realize AOC is one of 535 people in U.S. Congress. We need way more of her. We need to clone, I don't know, do we need to clone Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, 100 more times for the progressives to have any weight in legislation, right? So like he blames her for all these failures, and it's like, what is she gonna do? Like she's one of, and there's only like what 8 or 9. Well, it's growing now. There's more progressives now, but it's still a very small number. It's a small fraction of the entire U.S. Congress. You're talking 535. Representatives, and you've got what 10, 15 progressives, and even like the progressive caucus in Congress, not all those people are really progressives. A lot of them are sort of radical liberals that have sort of some anti-corporate or progressive leanings, but they're still funded, their campaigns are funded by big money, so by corporations and stuff. So yeah, it is. I mean, Kyle is correct in criticizing that, that a lot of people who say they're progressive in Congress really aren't. But then he goes after AOC all the time. I'm like, no, you need to go after the moderates. What MLK said about white moderates. You need to go after them. Yeah. He's going after AOC of all people. Like, I'm like, nah, dude.
Oh yeah, because I mean, at least he didn't go as far as the force the vote thing. I don't think he did.
He kind of did, but now he's sort of like, he pushes against that. He's like, look, that's something for another time, probably. M4A is something for another time. But yeah, certainly people like Brianna Joy Gray and all those people. Oh God, just
Jimmy Dore.
Oh, Jimmy Dore. I hate, the thing I always rag on about Jimmy Dore is he has a $2 million house in Los Angeles. I will, of course, that brings up Hassan, which Hassan was somebody I also got on early when I sort of joined Twitch and all this stuff. And I initially was in Destiny's community early 2020. I also joined Hassan's community, and was just a little Hassan frog. I still kind of am. I still am adjacent to a lot of the communities around Hassan, like Denim's community. Denim's is really cool, by the way. Y'all should follow. Yeah, Denim's rated me one time.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, she rated me a month ago when I was doing a fundraiser. So, yeah.
Gremlo, too.
Yeah, Gremlo, Jay Mari, right? Mari's pretty cool. And I'm trying to think who else. There's a bunch. Frogan. Keffels, Frogan. Yeah, they're really, really chill and cool. So, yeah. The Gremlo rad, Frogan rad. Frogan does a lot. Like, I know she does a lot of React streams. It's not really my thing, but when she does streams about public health, I'll tune into Frogan. So, Keffel's rad indeed. Vosh bad. Okay, anyways, moving on.
Bad.
Shit. Yeah, that was the Kyle question. Yeah, he was quite the anomaly for me at some point, because as soon as he said that in 2020, I'm like, dude, I can't watch your shit anymore. I've tried recently, and now he has this 90s boy band hair.
I know, right? I don't mind the hair. That's okay. That's fine. It's a little out of date, but whatever.
That's the only thing.
Yeah, the takes are my problem. His takes are my problem.
Do you ever keep up with like Majority Report?
Yes, I watch more Majority Report. then I used to watch more Pac-Man and TYT. TYT is kind of similar to Kyle in a lot of ways. They like, especially Jenk. Jenk needs to step down. Just let Anna run the whole thing, please. One day Jenk will retire, hand over
I
the
hope
reins
so.
to Anna, and TYT will improve significantly. Anna and John are pretty cool on TYT, but they are kind of sort of class reductionist and populist in some ways, and of course. Jank is very pro cop in some ways, which I don't like. But yeah, Majority Report is really cool. I like Sam and Emma. Emma's from TYT originally, but Emma's over there now. And yes, they generally. I think Sam has a way of reaching people who aren't necessarily progressive, but can sort of get them on his side. And I really think Sam is a really effective communicator on that. Yeah, and they're going more left. They used to be more social democrat, rad lib, but MR is definitely moving lib left, libertarian left, which is cool to see.
Oh yeah, definitely when they had Michael Brooks, they were a little bit ahead at least at that time. But
yeah, Michael Brooks, man,
rest in power.
Yeah, that was another guy. That was another guy who helped me move off Kyle. By the way, I should mention Michael Brooks because I used to tune into his show. Man, what a guy! And I also, of course, have his book I have his the physical book. So
I have that somewhere.
Yeah, I remember reading that. I should read it again. It's a good. I can reread that one forever. It's such a great book.
That's the one that's centered around the IDW.
Yes. Yep. And sort of countering that and sort of like what his vision was for like a progressive a progressive world, which is really really amazing to see, because he's not just about America. Like a lot of progressives, they focus on America. Michael was focused on like the whole world. Like the level of the level of knowledge Michael had on like geopolitics around the world and like of different countries was incredible. I'm pretty sure back then, I'm pretty sure like if he was still around and I bugged him and I asked him about like India and caste and stuff, I'm pretty sure he would be like against the caste system and sort of very progressive on that. Like he was somebody that like could communicate that kind of knowledge to the average American. That's what was so cool about him. That's like what we all of us politics nerds describe to be, is somebody who's that good of a communicator of these ideas.
I think he talked about India quite a few times too. I think he did bring up the caste system, but I can't say that I could pinpoint when.
Yeah, I'd have to go. Yeah, I'd have to go. I'd have to go back and because they still have the stuff archived on YouTube, so I'll have to go back and see the old podcasts I used to listen to. God, yeah, what a guy, Michael Brooks. But yeah, that's like where I would say like Michael Brooks, a Majority Report, discovering Vosh through David Pakman's interview of him, and of course now just being on the online left, through Hassan, I've discovered people like Denims and other people I've just mentioned. So that's where I'm at now, and it's cool that now there's even a group of us smaller streamers who are sort of have formed out of these communities that are sort of we're sort of gelling now, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's super chill.
Oh, by the way, sorry, I want to before you move to your next question, I want to shout someone out of my chat who comes by. Dithron is a game developer out of Australia, does sort of arcade style old school games, vintage arcade style games. They run on Windows, they run on modern computers, but they're vintage, arcadey, the sort of games. We've played them on stream before. Everyone go check out Dithron. If you're in my chat, !Dithron will get you their itch.io page. You can go and check out their games, couple bucks each, throw them a few bones, and check out the games. They're really, really fun. So anyways.
Oh, I was going to say with Michael Brooks too, he was one of the few, this might have been 5 or 6 years ago now, but he was one of the few to debate Sargon and Vakad and just expose him entirely. Granted, at the time, he was getting dogpiled by Sargon stands, but I came back to it years later. I'm like, holy shit. He really dismantled Sargon and Destiny, admittedly.
Yeah, that's another thing too with like Destiny, is when I went back and saw the Michael Brooks versus Destiny, I was like, okay, Destiny he got rolled. He got rolled. Destiny got rolled, which I know he's a pretty controversial figure here, but well, not here anymore. He's obviously over on the other thing, the other YouTube, whatever, and Cozy. But yeah, it's I think he redeem himself, sure, but he's got a lot to answer for, and that's why I don't subscribe to him. I don't agree with him on a lot. I still think he's a human being who can turn himself around. He's gotta want to change. So I hope he does.
So I guess I was going to ask you,
Anyways,
how do your parents feel about your politics? You don't have to answer that if that's too personal, but
I can be well. I can just be general about it. So my okay. So I lost my dad. What is it now? 11 years ago.
11
So
years ago.
unfortunately, I lost my dad. Yeah, very sudden. But yeah, my dad definitely was. I would say like out of my family, my dad was definitely more sort of progressive. He used to manage hotels. And so he used to help his employees a lot. He used to give them raises, bonuses, recognize their achievements, all that. So he used to treat his employees better because like a lot of like wherever he like left and moved on to manage another hotel, people would be like, "Don't leave, please. We're gonna miss you," and all that. Because he used to treat the employees really well, like because the hotel industry is really exploitative, and so he did what he could to like raise people's wages, give them bonuses and all that stuff. And all that. So he treated workers very well, and um yeah, he was pretty base despite being in a hierarchy of sort of corporate hierarchy of hotel management. um and it was funny because one of the experiences I remember seeing, I was helping my dad at the office,
Hmm.
just working the front desk a little bit one summer with him, and he was teaching me how to do all that stuff and all that. But then I remember the regional manager of the franchise came in, and basically she basically scolded him for raising the wages of the workers. Like, you can't do that. You can't raise wages. We're not in that position now. He's like, we made a ton of profit last year. This summer we made a ton of profit. It's like, and these workers, people have been working hard. I raised their wages, and she's like, no, you can't do that. You have to do this and this instead. And basically, he told her, well, if you don't want me to manage this hotel anymore, I'll gladly leave and go somewhere else. He's like, okay, okay, don't leave, please. We need you because you've done such a good job, upping the profits of this, of this hotel, and improving the service and all. Like she didn't, she, like he basically became kind of indispensable to her in a lot of ways. And so she could do nothing about that. It was pretty funny.
That is funny.
So yeah, my dad was pretty base, and I would say if he was here today, he would definitely sort of align with me on a lot of issues.
Hmm.
So yeah, and I would say my parents would be fairly approving. They might not agree fully. Like, I'd have to sit down with them and maybe just maybe talk about things like gender and stuff. But I think certainly in terms of labor, they are definitely more progressive because they see like because we didn't come here with a lot, and so my family, we've always been, working. We've always been working, like my dad, when he came here, he didn't manage a hotel. He
Hmm.
worked front desks and bus tables and did all, like, he really worked hard to get up to that level. So, but he also saw like what other people go through in those sort of lower wage jobs. And so, we have, my parents have a level of sympathy for them. And of course, now with all the worker strikes going on, I think they would, uh, they're pretty supportive of that. So I just think on social issues they're a little bit conservative, but with time, I think they'll be okay. They know that I'm not like, so just real quick in chat, I didn't introduce sort of my sort of identity earlier, but basically I am ace. So if you don't know what that is, asexuality, but I'm more demisexual. So I have some, it needs to be within the context of a relationship, right, or a deep friendship for me to be for me to have intimacy with someone. But outside of that, I don't really feel that. So whereas like a lot of South Asian men like me were sort of forced into getting married younger, and and finding a partner, and all this pressure around that, and particularly because there's a more arranged marriage in South Asian families. So I went through that ringer and never said yes to anything, and just kept saying no to the frustration of some of my relatives. But my parents are fairly understanding of it, and
That's
so is
good.
my grandfather. He's fairly understanding. He's like, okay, maybe not everybody has to get married, not everybody has to have kids in $1 million house, and follow the script. Like, he knows that I'm that's not my aim. So, and that's just not what I naturally want to do.
Uh,
So
Sorry, just because I might not know the term. When you say ace, you mean, does that mean asexual or?
yeah, so it's an umbrella term. So ace, well, it's kind of interesting when you look at these terms, right? So asexuality is both an umbrella term for
Hmm.
people who are like, who are not like, for people who are sort of not as not don't have as much of a drive, right? But there's also terms like aromanticism, where people are not are sort of, they're not really as romantic relationships either. So you kind of separate sort of the attraction and the romanticism, right?
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's an umbrella term, but it's also a very specific term as well. Whereas demisexuality is sort of like, it's sort of okay, you want that, but in a specific, in only when you really trust somebody, like it's tied to that basically. And that's, I sort of figured that out like when I was like 15, back when in high school. I never really used to ask anyone out. I didn't really, like, a lot of my fellow bros in high school would like pressure me to ask someone out to dance or whatever, and I just didn't feel the urge, because I just didn't really have a lot of friends who were women, or femme. Of course, in college, I had more friends who were femme, but I never really asked any of them out because it just wasn't. I never really developed good friendships with them. So yeah.
Gotcha.
And an aro ace, so aro is short for aromantic. There are people who are aro ace who they're not into either of those things. I guess they're very, very seldom do they get into those kind of relationships. It's like very seldom do they feel those things. So it's just, I mean, it's just, that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
So that is something I want to talk about on streams too, is more sort of asexuality and sort of familiarizing people with that.
Yeah, I actually, funny that you bring that up because a lot of the questions I had, you've already brought them up before I could even ask them. Because I noticed that on your stream yesterday. I was going to ask about it, but I was also like, I don't know if he wants to talk about it. But yeah, you're going to bring it up more on your streams, or you at least plan to at some point.
Yeah, just sort of in a more educational way, not so much frame it like, yeah, I do have a story around it, my life story, but I also want to go over content regarding that, and also within context of the South Asian community. I do think, asexuality is certainly a topic of interest in the South Asian LGBTQ plus community, particularly with regards to arranged marriage and things like that. Like there's definitely a lot of conversations to be had there.
So, what are your thoughts on arranged marriage? I know you don't have a positive connotation to it.
It is. I consider it a form of coercion, and so I think it should not happen. Certainly there is, within families, like, okay, they'll try to set you up with somebody. That's one thing, but like when you say like you have to get, like in India, a lot of time what happens is a lot of times like in like university or high school or whatever, like people will have a relationship with someone outside their caste or outside their religion or whatever, right? Somebody else, right, from another group. And so the parents will disapprove and say, well, you can't marry that person. The priest has matched you up with this person. And so this is the person we've met with their family and everything. And so they basically like, now for sons, as a son, they don't force the marriage much. They still kind of do. They more force it on the daughter. The daughter bears a lot of that, unfortunately. So there is a lot of sort of misogyny in arranged marriage, where basically a lot of the pressure to get married quickly is put on the daughter. So unfortunately, sons, we don't have to face that as much. Yeah, we get pressure, but and sometimes it's still forced on us in some way. So we'll acknowledge that as somebody who also supports men's liberation and wants to get more educated in that field. And it definitely, majority of the time, arranged marriage is pushed on the daughter and their family. And it all roots again out of the caste system, out of thousands of years of tradition. That there are some traditions in India that are very helpful, like the food, of course. The music, different customs, celebrations, things like that, forms of dress that are really, really cool. But then there's negative aspects, like again the caste system and arranged marriage and all that stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't sound fun. I've also known plenty of people who were forced into arranged marriages to where, like, when they got older, they're like, I've never loved this person. I've just been kind of coerced into staying.
Oh, yeah. And of course, the other thing, of course, in Alex brought up in my chat, in South Asia, of course, the, advancements in science, mathematics, and fields like that. So yeah, a lot of good things have come out of South Asia. As doomy as I get about what's going on over there, there's a lot of good over there. The very numbers we use, like 0, 1, 2, all the Arabic numerals, a lot of those came, not all of them. I mean, they came from different languages, but the Arabic numerals, sort of, some of them came, like when you see the number 2, that's the Hindi and Sanskrit number 2, and it also came from other South Asian languages. So it comes from the old Yeah. And movies, of course. Yeah, we got
Oh,
movies.
Bollywood.
Not just Bollywood. Actually, Bollywood tends to be pretty cringe and sort of cheap entertainment. I don't. There are only a few Bollywood films I really like, but there's a lot of regional films that are done in the regional languages. So, like if you go to Southern India, for instance, there's a lot of good films out of Southern India. Like, Jai Bhim is a Hindi movie, but then is it? Yeah, it's a Hindi movie. But then RRR is okay. It's mid. But there's other movies like Kannathil Muthamittal, which I don't really speak Tamil, but that's a Tamil movie, and that's a great film. It's actually about the Tamil tigers, if you ever read about them and the sort of what was going on in southern India and Sri Lanka at the time. But yeah,
Just real quick.
anyways.
I need to run to the restroom real fast. But
no, take a break. We've been going for a while.
Well, I was gonna say if you're willing to rave about the best things about India, that especially food. I'm such a big foodie. Like, be like, this is the best food. You got to try this whenever you go to India. Blah blah blah. Like anything that you can nerd on about.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. One correction in chat. Jimmy is a Tamil movie. Sorry. My brain is somewhere else tonight. I've been covering so much stuff. Arun canceled me. All right, good. I will get canceled more and more, of course, the longer I stream. Sorry about that, dude. I'm just trying to think what Hindi movies I liked, and I was like, Jimmy. Oh, wait a minute. It's been so long since I watched that. So maybe I don't know about that, but anyway, sorry. Just for Jets chat, it's yeah, it's all UP's fault, man. I can blame everything on Uttar Pradesh. Yeah, my home state. I will blame. Anyways, so as far as like food in India, right? So depends where you go, right? And of course throughout South Asia. So food is a number of influences there. So there's a lot of like in northern India, you will find a lot of. Oh, you're back. So
Canceled.
in northern India,
You're canceled.
there's a lot of.
You're done. Sorry.
So in northern India, there's a lot of influence from other places, like from Persia, from the Middle East, and Central Asia. So you're talking like Uzbekistan and places like that. So a lot of the food there that you'll see, like kebabs, biryani, right? Biryani is that meat rice dish that's really really spicy. That came with the Mughal, right? The Mughal empires and the Nawabs and people like that. Like they brought a lot of that with them from Persia and from Central Asia. And of course, the influence of Genghis Khan. So a lot of that food came from there. But then, there are other foods in northern India that are more vegetarian. So you have, like saag, which is the green spinach, right? That's really tasty. Or a lot of a lot of times like the risen bread that you see in India, like naans that are really puffy, that's more came from the Mughals, right? Whereas before that, you had sort of flat bread, chapati, which is like a really really flat bread. It's unleavened. It's kind of sort of like a tortilla, right? That's sort of more the traditional food of India, more sort of pre-Mughal, and so a lot of that food, there's sort of that kind of food too that's more vegetarian. So there are a number of influences on cuisines throughout India, throughout South Asia. In the South, a lot of it is based on local agriculture. Up north, we have more dairy, more wheat, more corn, things like that. Whereas down south, they have more rice, coconut, fruits, things like that. And of course, up north, we have, more tea growing up there. Whereas in the south, they grow more coffee. So in southern India, they tend to drink more coffee. They still drink tea down there, but like in Sri Lanka, there's a very famous. There's a lot of tea that's grown there, but there's also a lot of coffee grown down there. So a lot of times in southern India, they will drink more coffee. Yeah. And also, in southern, also like not all. So when you talk about traditional Indian food, one misconception I want to clarify. So a lot of people think, everyone's vegetarian in India. That's not true. Even if you're Hindu, a lot of Hindus are not vegetarian. It's only the sort of super upper caste Hindus that are vegetarian. So Brahmin Hindus, they tend to be very vegetarian, and even some of them are not. So in southern India, for example, they eat a lot of beef and chicken. And then throughout India, they eat a lot of chicken, they eat eggs, they'll eat fish, like a lot of coastal communities, they'll eat fish in a lot of places. So yeah, I mean, it's not all vegetarian. When you go to India, there's plenty of meat to go around. Don't worry. So that's one of the misconceptions I wanted to clear. And also like the whole thing with the sacred cow, a lot of that stuff is again a lot of upper caste stuff. Again, a lot of people who are very upper caste who are in power structures and stuff, priests, people like that, they will push that, right? But most people in India still drink dairy. They still eat beef and things like that. So the whole sacred cow thing is I'm not saying it's a myth. It's just certain Hindus believe in that, who are very high caste, who are vegetarian slash vegan. They will adopt those beliefs. But and I'm fine if anybody thinks that. It's just don't impose it on everybody else, please. Because like in Uttar Pradesh, for example, I think it was last year they tried to ban all beef production in Uttar Pradesh, which is huge. I mean, you're gonna ban kebabs and biryani and all. You're gonna ban all that stuff, dude? Are you kidding me? So there was a lot of resistance to that. So yeah. So yeah, because the UP is run again by Hindu nationalists, so it sucks. But
Well, I mean,
what are
good
you
thing
gonna do?
you address those misconceptions because I know a lot of Americans are just like, oh, you don't eat beef there, sacred cow. Ooh.
No, no, we eat a lot of beef there. I mean, southern India in particular, but even in northern India, because of the Persian and Mughal and Central Asian influence, we have a lot of beef dishes, goat, lamb, yeah, and of course seafood if you're by the coast. So pretty interesting. And then of course you go to the mountainous regions of India, like in the Himalayas. If you go to Uttarakhand state and then you go toward Tibet, you'll see a lot of people raising yaks. You've just seen those big, they're sort of
Yeah.
like oxen, but yeah,
Yeah.
the yak. Yeah, they'll use the milk, they'll use the hides, they'll use everything, so they don't waste anything. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, this isn't Indian food, but I was watching Anthony Bourdain on Grem Stream, of course. But the Sri Lanka episode where it was
I remember that.
it
It
was
was so good.
the crab
I miss
curry.
Anthony.
Oh, the crab
Yes.
curry looks so good.
I
I
know.
want to try
yeah,
that
yeah,
so badly. But it makes
Yeah,
me want to
crab
try.
curry.
I was just gonna say it makes me want to try more in like seafood all around South Asia. Like it all just sounds so good. I'm eating a Philly cheesesteak right now and I'm hungry. Just thinking about that.
Yeah, it's making you, even though you had a Philly cheesesteak. That's awesome. Yeah, no, it is. And the thing is, in the U.S., because I mean, so we got to remember in the U.S., a lot of people, and I was talking about this on my last stream where I talked about South Asian issues and sort of what's going on right now. So yes, crab curry, amazing, right? Yeah, see, there are a lot of foods in the United States and Indian restaurants that you don't get because you have to think who are you have to look at the patterns of immigration. The main groups of people who come to the United States or have even the means to immigrate here are upper caste. Now, that's not to say there are definitely lower caste people who come here. A lot of Dalits do come here, from South Asia. Lower caste people and people from very very poor backgrounds will come here, but yeah, upper caste North Indian people. There are a lot of South Indian people who come here too. But there are a lot of people from northern India, from Gujarat, Punjab, from UP, and from Haryana. They will come here, and that's why everybody thinks Indian food is naan and chicken tikka and biryani and all. Like, no, that's a very specific regions of India where that stuff is made, where that stuff came from or originated, right? So whereas in southern India you have more. I don't know if you've ever had a dosa, which is that crispy, it's almost like a crepe. It's like a savory crepe, and they stuff it with potatoes, and it's super crispy. But yeah, it's kind of, they have dosa, idli, vada. Vada is kind of like a savory donut. And there's all kinds of other food. Yeah. Southern Indian food is not just idli vada dosa. There's also other stuff. There's chicken chettinad. There's chicken 65. There's beef dishes. There's a lot going on. I mean, it's that. So. Oh, by the way, thank you, Logan, for donating $5 to the. I am fundraising right now. By the way, just real quick. For a couple in our community. So we helped them get out of homelessness late last year. So September, October, November, we helped them get out of homelessness. They were in a van that was half broken down, and now they found a place to live. But unfortunately, after finding a job, their job dropped them. So they're having trouble finding other jobs. Anything you can do to help them, pay rent, expenses. Also, one of them, James. James has a daughter that lost their daughter. So Sage and James are the couple. So James lost their daughter. There was a family situation, and I don't want to get into it. It's a pretty abusive situation, but they lost their daughter to that. But yeah, I appreciate the donation to help with that. We do have a goal, by the way. We're at what, 1,000 something right now, but we have a goal to hit $1,312 on this fundraiser. So anything you can do to get there. And when I hit that goal, 1,312, that steering wheel I showed you earlier, I'm going to play Elden Ring with that steering wheel. We're actually going to try to beat one of the bosses in Elden Ring with the wheel. I'll like map all the controls, and we're going to play Elden Ring with the critical racing theory.
I was going to bring that up. I thought it was for your 800 followers, but it's for that fundraiser?
Yeah, for that. For the 800 followers, I'm going to do something else. I want to do like a Mario Kart community day or something. I think that's what we'll do.
Also, chat, I just put the shout out for Boymeetsmini. Of course, if you're not following him, you're dumb. You're not dumb. I love you, chat.
No, don't do that.
No. I'm kidding. My chat knows me that I have a really shitty sense of humor. But no, go follow Boymeetsmini. Super chill. Also, check out that fundraiser. See if you can donate anything. And incentive, Elden Ring on a steering wheel.
Yes, we're gonna do the meme stream for that. So I gotta practice a little bit beforehand, to get used to writing torrent and getting all the the equips and all that stuff. But yeah, then we'll I don't know, we'll have to pick a boss to beat, maybe one of the dragons or Margate or something like that.
What if you could do that to where you actually feel you're riding torrent and you can control him? You're like, oh no, his back hooves are giving out.
I don't know. Maybe like I know the controller rumbles, so I wonder if the rumble will translate. I really don't know. I don't know yet. I'll have to set it up.
That's gonna be fun. And then
that will be.
I'm just trying to think of like how he'll do it. Oh, you know what? I'll find out when you do it.
I'll figure it out. Basically, what kind of inspired me to do that, I saw Jimmy Broadbent. So Jimmy Broadbent is one of the biggest sim racing streamers in the world. He he's huge, and he's also done professional racing too. But he actually played Cyberpunk on a wheel. And he has a wheel similar. Well, he has a much better wheel than me, but it's similar in the controls and stuff. So he was able to play Cyberpunk on a wheel. So I'm like, well, basically he mapped all the buttons in Steam and saved the profile. That's basically what he did.
That's super cool.
Yeah,
wow.
So it should work. It should work for Elden Ring. So we're getting too much oversteer from the horse. Yeah, the horse is going sideways. That'll be hilarious.
Yeah,
we're Tokyo drifting. We're Tokyo drifting in Limgrave. Yeah, exactly.
That'd be so cool to drift on torrent, especially during the dragon battle when he comes in.
I might have to drift torrent to battle those fire chariots. I hate those things. Fire chariots. God. I'll have to do some swerving, and then you got to hit the driver. You got to go around back and get the driver. That's how you knock him out.
Yeah,
it's so hard.
I got to one of those things at level 27, and it's pretty rough.
Yeah, I can barely beat them at level 35, and I have the Bloodhound's Fang sword from who was it from that first ever go. But I have that sword, and I had it, I've smithed it up and everything.
Valyri?
Not enough.
Is that his name, Valyri or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. And then there's that wolf who helps you, right?
That dude's
I don't
awesome.
remember all the character names. Yeah, he's what a Chad.
Oh, super Chad.
Yep. But anyways, yeah, we'll be playing Elden Ring with the wheel when we hit that. But anything you can do to donate, !aid in my chat. Well, anyways, what else did you have? I know we've been going for a while, but what else did you have?
I was actually going to talk about Elden Ring. Or any games that you're interested in. Because I know you've been wanting to play some co-op with Elden Ring, or at least you've been advertising it. I might be stubborn for a little bit and play single player. I just got through the Crucible Knight at level 30.
Ooh, nice. I still have to beat Crucible. I've been avoiding that. It's such a hard fight.
I'm so goddamn stubborn when it comes to Soulsborne games. Like, if I'm under leveled, I'm like, no, I can do this, and I managed to do it somehow. What builds do you usually go for when it comes to Elden Ring?
Right now, okay, I have one build right now. I'm doing a hero strength and dex build. Basically, I'm going for Going for the big hits. Like I'm two-handing a sword. I started out, of course, with the battle axe, fully smith that out, +7, whatever, and then I switched to the Bloodhound's Fang sword. And then later, what I want to do is I want to get the one of the hammers, but I got to really up my strength for that. I'm like level 30 something right now, but I need to up my strength so I can use one of the hammers or maybe a pike. If I can get a pike for PvP, that'll be cool. And not like the one you get at the beginning, like a really good pike.
Or do you do a lot of PvP when it comes to Soulsborne games or Elden Ring at least?
No. I've done PvP in like Elder Scrolls Online and stuff, but it's very grindy, and a lot of people who come into those, like I'm going in there two-handed with a great sword, the prophetic great sword, and like in Elder Scrolls Online, people just spam like they'll just have like some like really crazy enchanted bow, and they'll just spam bow attacks, and you just can't avoid them. They just snipe you from across the arena. I'm like, whatever, you know. Yeah, the matching on ESO is not that great for PvP, but I do want to do. I haven't done any PvP yet. I think I've been invaded a few times, and I've been able to win a couple of those, but yeah, that's about the extent of PvP I've done.
And even Epic Prawn says ESO PvP is rough.
Oh yeah, it is. Like all the ESO streamers I see going in doing the arenas and the all that stuff. It is so like. Depending on your build, it can be stacked against you really heavily.
Do you play a lot of ESO? I don't know how that game is.
Elder Scrolls Online, I used to.
Yeah.
It's basically Elder Scrolls MMO. That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
But so it's like WoW or like or like Final Fantasy Online or whatever. It's fun, because I'm in so many Fallout communities, and a lot of those people, because Fallout 76 is a flop and always will be, a lot of them migrated to ESO. So I started playing ESO with them, started running dungeons and stuff with people I knew in those communities. But then I just lost interest in it. I'm like, you know what? I'd rather mod Oblivion, mod the heck out of Oblivion and enjoyed that. Because modded Oblivion is really good.
Oh, have you seen the mod that's supposed to be coming out, where it's supposed to have Skyrim graphics, basically?
Mm-hmm. Oh, Sky Oblivion, and Sky Wind is coming too. But that's a longer term one. But yeah, the Morrowind and Skyrim's engine. But yeah, they're supposed to do Oblivion in Creation Engine, and I can't wait.
That's so awesome. Crazy. I never played Oblivion or Morrowind. I finally got through Skyrim a year ago for the first time, but. I've been wanting to play Oblivion, but it always freaks me out when you talk to people and it just zooms in on their face.
Yeah, Oblivion's kind of a controversial one because like there's a lot of people who love it, and then there's a lot of people who are like, well, bro, it's not Morrowind, so I hate it, But I like Oblivion. Like people think it's oversimplified in some ways. I'm like, it's kind of more approachable in that way, and it's still got like replay value, like a lot of replay value. And of course, the modding community is very strong for Oblivion, so as well as it is for Morrowind. Oh, there's thousands of mods for Oblivion. Go to the Nexus. Oblivion's one of the top games for mods. Like you'll see like Skyrim, Fallout 4, Fallout New Vegas, Cyberpunk, and then you'll see Oblivion. It's like, what the heck? And it's it's like a game from 2006 is still being modded today. It's incredible. And then Morrowind is like one of the top 10 as well.
Is Skyrim still number one?
Yeah, Skyrim has the most mods. Fallout 4 is number 2 because Fallout 4 is very scuffed, but the engine is so capable that people have like absolutely like modded the heck out of that game.
Did you figure out your modding problem with Fallout 4?
Yeah, last night. So basically, last night, which we're gonna play it again tonight if we have time. I don't know how long I'll go, but basically, I was having issues where like textures and the ground wasn't rendering in one spot. And that was like where I needed to go and save the Minutemen from the Raiders. The sort of the beginning of the game.
Right.
Because I started a new sort of hardcore survival run where I basically turned the game into a tactical shooter. So like Tarkov or Call of Duty or something. But you got to deal with real injuries and surviving and radiation and stuff. So it's actually harder than normal Fallout 4. And of course, real bullet physics that actually work, things like that. So basically, when I entered Concord, I was like, wait, like I entered the place where like I had to go battle the Raiders. I started I peeked around the corner and like the floor textures were like missing. I'm like, what's going on? Like half the road is missing and the sidewalk and like there were buildings bugging out of existence. I'm like, what's going on? So I investigated it today. Basically,
you were over encumbered. That's what.
No,
yeah,
of course,
you broke the ground. That's right.
That's right. I was over encumbered. I broke the ground before breaking my legs. But yeah, the by the way, the survival mod I have, if you are over encumbered, you will get, your legs will take damage if for after a while. So you got to watch your weight.
Oh, sorry, I cut you off though. What were you saying?
So basically, yeah. So I figured out the problem though with Fallout 4. I think the textures are rendering now, so. Yeah, it's a scuffed game, but it's fun, and I want to do a full Minuteman run with it, with survival and everything, and the hardcore sort of tactical shooting.
So if dogs or some enemy attacks your legs, does it slow down your movement too? Like if it goes down a percentage?
Yep, your movement will slow down. You have to deal with bleeding, so you don't just heal with the stim pack. You have to. It's just like Stalker or Tarkov. You got to use a surgery kit, a bandage, a splint. All that stuff is in there, and of course the movement has changed. Like in Fallout 4, the movement felt kind of stilted, right? Moving around and shooting. It's been completely reworked with these mods, so it feels very fluid, very tactical, and pretty realistic. Like you don't run as fast as you normally do in the game, so you actually it feels more realistic, like as far as pace.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love it.
What's compelling for you about the Fallout series? I never got into it, but one of my fraternity brothers, yeah, I said that. My fraternity brothers loves the game. Music fraternity, by the way. Just saying, not your stereotype.
Yeah, not not
Bro!
Alpha Kappa Alpha, not none of that. But yeah, what got me into Fallout, I used to be into a lot of shooter games. So I started out my gaming history basically. I started out with Doom, and then of course CS 1.6 way back in the day.
Ooh, yeah.
And then Source, and then Geo, and I stopped playing Geo about 2017. I just got worn out on it. Nothing new for me. Of course, Geo is pretty different now, but I don't know how different. It feels like Call of Duty too much, and I have never once touched Call of Duty. I will confess to that. I have never once touched it. I've seen it.
Good for you.
And yeah, but I've never once touched it myself. So I am, and I've never once touched League of Legends either. So I'm good.
Same.
Good. Yeah, the main reason I got into Fallout is because I started to play more story-driven games. I started to play, I started to play some role-playing games. What was I playing back after CS:GO? What was that one game I played? I'm trying to remember. That was really role-play, but it still had some shooting. I think it was one of the Hitman games, one of the earlier Hitman games. Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah, and so Hitman sort of got me into the story stuff, and then I found the Fallout stuff, and I'm like, this is kind of cool. And so I just started getting into it. And then basically 4 was my first Fallout. When Fallout 4 first came out, that's when I started playing. And then I discovered New Vegas 3, and then later on discovered the classic Fallouts from the 90s. Those are great. Got to play the classic Fallout. They're amazing.
Would you say, you said 3 in New Vegas are probably the best ones?
I would say 3 in New Vegas. Now there's a team of modders working on a basically kind of like Sky Oblivion. There's a Fallout 4 New Vegas coming, so they're gonna do it in the Fallout 4 engine. That's gonna be wicked. They're just doing the main game, not the DLCs, but eventually they're gonna do the DLCs because it's gonna be popular.
That's so cool. That should be.
Yeah. Yep. Full Fallout New Vegas in 4's engine. It's gonna be incredible.
I'll have to play Fallout one of these days because people rave about it, and I played a little bit. But not enough. Not enough.
I'll send you a quick guide. It's kind of complicated to mod New Vegas compared to 4. I mean, they're both kind of tricky to mod. I would recommend get Fallout New Vegas, and then there's a modding guide that I followed. It's not too hard to follow, but it can take a little while. But basically, it optimizes the game for modern computers and makes it look better. Yeah,
that's sweet.
So yep, and then there's lots of you can modernize you can make it feel like a modern game with actual bullet physics and slick animations. You can do that's later, but the guide at least helps you get it to be a really stable, optimized game. So yeah, I'll send that to you. But yeah, New Vegas, start with that.
And Amy Lark, welcome to the chat. It says it does look great, the New Vegas Fallout 4 mod. Okay, well I guess I'll have to check it out because one of my
Amy Lark. Wait, is that Aim
Oh yeah, it's
Aim
Amy.
Animations?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
Good
Hey,
to see
welcome.
you.
Good to see you after what Friday. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know Amy hung around your stream. That is awesome. We got some base
as of
people around
Friday.
here.
Good. How are you
Very
doing?
cool.
Boymeetsmini, how are you doing too? I'm assuming
I'm
you're
doing great,
good.
Amy. I don't come around your streams much, but I do see you live. I am a follower, so I'll have to come around more often.
Yeah, Epic Prawn was like, "Oh yeah, you should probably check her out." I'm like, "Okay." Like, twist my arm.
Yeah, because I love the aim and animations. They're some of my favorite. They kind of like it's something I could send to a friend who's not into politics, and they'll get a laugh out of it. It's great.
Amon Hawk, thank you for the follow and hello. Hopefully you all are having a good night so far. So I didn't have too much of anything else to bring up with you, unless you had anything for me, but doesn't matter either way.
Yeah. Well, we've been going for a couple hours, so I don't know.
I
if
could
you had
go
any
on for
other-
hours, so it's sorry. Like you noticed, I could
No.
probably just ask the questions and be like, "Oh wait, what the hell? What's that? What are you talking about?"
No, there's definitely. I definitely want to. Like I said, I know you're still doing your Elden Ring thing. I'm still kind of. I need to get back into the game as well, and grind some. Grind some more and get that strength up. Hopefully, get a nice hammer, or a pike.
Oh yeah.
And then we got to team up, and I don't know wherever you're at in the game. Like, what's that one really annoying dragon in Kaled that like it sprays you with it's like an instant death. What's that one dragon in Kaled? It's this massive dragon you have to defeat. Maybe we can go up against that.
Or
No, not that, but the one in Kaled that like it has like sort of white fur and it like sprays that.
idea.
Yeah, it's like I forget the name of that dragon, but it's in Kaled. And thank you, Amy, for joining the pit crew as well. Welcome to my community. Appreciate you. I'll have to come around your stream. I just time. Yeah.
I've only got so far. I've played Elden Ring a few times. I never beat it. The furthest I got was Godric, who was stupid easy.
Godric is slow enough. You can time all your like power attacks very very easily with God. Margit is just so acrobatic. It's hard.
Well, if you don't have the right shield too, he deals holy damage, I think.
Yes, that's right. So I have to, that's the hard thing, and that's what gets you. It's not so much the physical attack.
And then Amy, in regards to it came out this year. You mean 2022? Just want to double check because Elden Ring's pretty awesome. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I got Game of the Year.
And I haven't even played the new God of War. Have you played that?
No, I don't have a PS, so the only consoles I own right now. I have a Switch, and the new Switch. So I have the OLED Switch, and then I have the SNES remake. The little tiny SNES that Nintendo. Yeah, I have one of those. And I have the controllers with really long wires. Those are fun.
Ah, okay. Classic.
Yes.
That's how my Xbox controller is, but this is ridiculously long. Makes me happy.
Nice. So yeah, I didn't really have anything else, but yeah, one of these days we'll have to co-op in Elden Ring, either PvP or go into a dungeon or do a boss together. We'll summon each other, whatever we got to do. But that should be fun.
There's a mod too where you can team up with people, and after beating a boss, it won't kick you. You can actually play the story.
Oh, really? Is that allowed though online? Is that mod allowed, or is it kind of?
I think it's allowed online. It should be.
Yeah, I just don't want the anti-cheat to get me. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I'll look into that a little bit more. But one of my buddies was telling me about that. Jordan, who I interviewed last week, 2 weeks ago. But yeah. Anyway, folks.
Yeah, that's all I had though. But yeah, it was a good couple hours with you. So
Yeah.
I think that's my voice. I need to rest my voice a bit. But yeah, it was good to talk to you. And like I said, we've met through chat for a couple months. I think a couple months
Yeah.
ago. And
First time chatting,
yeah,
finally.
finally, yeah, and it's been good. So I'm looking forward to our adventures in the lands between.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that too. And also,
Absolutely.
IRL adventures whenever you need an escape from LA.
Oh, true. Yeah, maybe TwitchCon or something like that whenever I come down
yeah.
there. But yeah.
Whenever they sell tickets for TwitchCon, it'll probably be last second how they usually do it. Anyway,
Yeah.
folks,
Yeah. Anyways, have a
subscribe
good
to-
night, everybody.
I was gonna say, go subscribe to Boymeetsmini. Did you want to pitch yourself one more time, or are you good?
Just real quick, yeah, I'm Boymeetsmini. I am the critical racing theorist. And yes, I know critical race theory, whatever. And I do a lot of sim racing, but I also want to bring more sort of progressive attitudes to different spaces, whether it's sim racing or tech or whatever. That's you know, I want to I really appreciate the community I built over the past couple years, and yeah, I'm yeah, that's otherwise yeah. I by the way, announcement too. So this Saturday, I'll be doing another fundraising stream for the for Sage and James. You know, and so basically it'll be all day. If any of you are in sim racing, if you do F1, Assetto Corsa, I'll be setting up some races for that. So we'll do some lobbies for F1. We'll probably do a race in Assetto Corsa, Competizione, and then do Mario Kart. So I'll put out an announcement about it on my social media. So I'm not on Twitter, but I am on Mastodon .social. I'm on Instagram, and of course I'm on here on Twitch. So you can catch me in those places. I'm trying to do more TikTok, even though Hassan says TikTok is haram. I'm trying to do more TikTok because that is another place I want to reach out to. So, but anyways, yeah, I will put out announcements for that. But yeah, this Saturday, all day Pacific time, I will be doing various things. It'll be an all day stream for the fundraiser. And if you want to contribute in advance, it's !8 in my chat. There's a link there to the GoFundMe. If you don't want to use GoFundMe, there's PayPal, Cash App, and Venmo. So. Yeah.
Sweet.
But thank you for having me, Jet. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I look forward to you know, having you on stream again.
Hey, you're always welcome on. If one of these days you're like, hey man, I'm bored, just let me know. Like.
Oh, I will. Yeah. I mean, I'm barely ever bored. That's the problem. I'm always doing something. But yeah, if it's like a lazy Saturday or whatever, and I don't know what your schedule is, but yeah, if I don't have anything planned that night, and you know, fire up stream, fire up Elden Ring, and go destroy some bosses.
Well, I guess in this case, hey, I wanna be not bored in this way. So Elden Ring, bosses for sure.
Yes.
All right, my friend.
Awesome.
I will talk to you sooner than later. Have a good night.
All right, you too. And also, thank you, Jet Extremis' chat, for having me and not trying to cancel me. I'm just kidding. I will always get canceled.
All right, friend. I'll talk to you later.
Later. Bye.
Well, shit, that was a lot of fun. That was a good chat.